Are we live?
An error occurred on Rumble. It's usually temporary, right? Wait a minute and then try again. So we're live on YouTube, which might be temporary because YouTube might kick us off, and then there was an error on Rumble.
Error.
Well, we're live on Rockfin as well in a second. Hopefully, the error will correct itself on Rumble. I'm sure that there's a lot of people streaming right now on Rumble, and that's probably caused a bit of a issue.
Nowhere as cool as this place right here, right now.
There's absolutely nowhere as cool as this. You're right. We're about 10 minutes away from the first ever debate between a current and former president, according to CNN.
I don't know who I'm going to vote for. Tonight is going to be...
This is a decision maker.
A lot of people are going to be seeing these two for the first time. Never introduced these two before.
Stella, you don't... Are you even allowed to vote in America, Stella, living in Australia? I mean, I feel like you should be able to.
Yeah.
Well, you'd think it would be mandatory because if we don't vote here, we get fined. So
what?
Yeah. It is true, my friend.
No,
That's
there's
crazy.
no freedom to not vote.
That's right. Vote, you bastards! It's just like, okay.
All right, I'm going to check
hilarious.
the Rockfin stream here because it does.
You know, you just do the donkey, dick, and balls, and it's all good.
How much do they fine you?
I'm not really sure. I think it can vary, but I don't know whether anyone actually ever does get fined. You know, I think it's just a scare tactic.
What are the equivalent to the conservative and liberal parties? Is it?
We have Liberal and Labor, but I'm not
Liberal and
sure.
Liberal. Okay.
Yeah, yeah, and the Greens, of course.
Okay, so we're on
YouTube.
YouTube.
Okay.
That's good. We're working on YouTube. I don't know if Rockfin's working either.
Ooh.
Let me check. It looks like it is.
All of a sudden, my cat's very curious. No, we're just starting, buddy.
All right, we're good. Yeah. Okay, so we're good. We're live there as well.
It's there for the furries.
Yeah.
Let's see if Rumble started working yet. That would suck if it didn't. Rumble posted on Twitter today. Come over to Rumble. We upgraded our system specifically for today because YouTube is threatening to kick everybody off.
Why? Why upgrade it today? Upgrade it a week before today.
Well, they did.
Don't you, come on,
guys. Little last minute stuff. So, all right. Well, we're like 2 minutes away now. Let's get the stream up. There's some photos of Biden.
Okay.
I'll wait till they actually get the debate going before they do this. Here's an image of Biden in Atlanta earlier today. I just wanted to show you this. I thought it was funny. It says, Atlanta, it's good to be back. I thought he was going to do the comedian joke where he says, it's good to be back inside of you. But you see the image here of Biden. You look at all the fans waiting to see Joe. And there's Joe hugging this woman. And you see the guy in the back with the too tight of a button-up shirt on and tie, the obvious Secret Service person. And then you look further in the back, and you can see that a perimeter has been created. And that this whole thing is not a spontaneous fan showing up. These are controlled. They never allow Biden to be in front of an actual audience that they don't have some sort of lots of control over, but they want to create the illusion of something else here. And you see that image on that guy's phone? That doesn't even look like, maybe I'm frame of reference, but that doesn't even look like the what he's taking a picture of, does it?
It is, but
I'm just missing.
You have to look over his right shoulder and kind of up and to the right, and you'll see that guy.
That's true. Yeah.
I think it's miraculous that they found someone that would actually let Biden hug them. So, you know.
She was paid a lot of money.
Silicone.
Yeah.
Right. Maybe she's a really unattractive sex doll. It could be what was going on. All right.
Heavily overpaid.
He's duped a lot of people.
Yeah. And he has a different definition of duped as well, which is I think that's what he calls a shower with his daughter.
Define dupe.
Define.
Everything has a new definition now, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Totally.
Hey, you want a dupe?
Yeah, right.
Well, and I can't even argue with some of my liberal friends because we can't get past the semantics. We'll start talking and they'll go, well, what do you mean by blank? And I'll say, well, the common usage. And then we just can't get past the word.
Yeah.
We can't agree on the definition of the word, and then it's time to go home.
I love we have a new definition for raw dogging it.
Well, what do you
Did
mean
you
by
guys know
raw
that?
dogging it?
Well,
Yeah, what's the actual definition?
Yeah, what is
well,
the new
I
definition
think it
for
used
raw
to
dogging?
used to mean unprotected sex is what I think.
Now
it
it's
used
just
to
eating a
mean.
hot dog with no condiments?
No, now it's riding on an airplane. That could be a third definition of raw dogging it right there.
Have you got a condiment?
Now it's riding an airplane without using any technology the whole time. You just sit there and look straight forward. You raw dog it. I don't know. That doesn't even make sense to me. I
That
guess
doesn't
if
make
you,
sense at all.
like there's these guys posting that are like just got done raw dogging it on a 5-hour plane ride. And I'm like, what do guys who have unprotected sex for 5 hours on an airplane have to say now? They got to come up with a new definition or new word?
Is that like the High Fly Club or whatever they call it?
Yeah, the Mile High Club.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's
Mile High.
Yeah.
We got well, that could be something else. You know, for all we know now.
The High Raw Dogging Club.
Yeah, All right, let's see what Jake Tapper,
Fake Tapper.
fake Tapper,
So this is live. Yeah.
supposedly. Of course, I can't.
I like
hear
that. I like that
We
they're
assume.
telling us who's going to be on the right and who's going to be on the left. Did you hear what he said that?
No, I can't hear anything. Can you guys hear it?
Yeah,
And
it's
where you're
low.
standing.
His microphone will be turned
going on
on,
here?
and his opponent's
Oh,
microphone
he just looks
will
like
be
the
turned
Joker, doesn't he,
off.
Biden?
Should a candidate
my
interrupt
gosh.
when his microphone
can't I
is
hear
muted,
this?
This is the
it will be
stupidest
difficult
fucking
to
thing we're about to
for
submit
viewers.
ourselves to ever.
Hold on, I gotta.
They're
Yeah, like it.
explaining to us what the mute button does.
Yeah, I played a clip of that yesterday. For some reason, I can't hear that.
This is how dumb they think
We were hearing it
Americans
just in
are.
case.
Yeah, that's
They just
weird.
think
What?
they just think we're this fucking stupid.
They do. Everything
You know?
relies on it.
Ah.
They're deluding
okay.
themselves to a point.
All right, sorry. Hold on. Here comes Joe walking out. I don't mean to miss the beginning of it, but I can't.
Okay, really
Audio.
walking
Assume
out.
everyone
I
else
think
is as
you're being
stupid as they
generous. Yeah,
All right.
yeah, exactly.
What up, What up, Denver? What up, Big Perm? Trying to get this thing up here so we can hear it. What is? Oh, I see. My browser was muted.
Mm.
I hate that.
Here we go. All right.
Big perm.
For example, a basket of groceries that cost $100 then now costs more than $120.
Nah,
and typical
go a
home
little
prices
higher.
have jumped more
Yeah.
than 30%.
Dipshit.
What do you say to voters who feel they are worse off under your presidency than they were under President Trump?
We got to take
Wake
a
up.
look at what I was left when I became president.
Oh my
and
God.
what Mr. Trump left me. We had an economy that was in free fall.
Smoked a pack of
And
cigarettes.
Just have that
badly
look all
handled.
night.
Many people were dying. All he said was, "It's not that serious.
Just don't get
inject
mad."
a little bleach in your arm. You'll be all right."
He didn't say
The economy
that.
collapsed. There were no jobs. Unemployment rate rose to 15%.
He knows he didn't
It was
say it.
terrible.
He's
I know he's going to
push
say
buttons.
it to try and provoke Trump into saying something so
That's exactly what we began to do.
they can bring the
15,000 new
lip
jobs.
readers on
We
CNN
brought out
later
a
and
position
say
where
what Trump
we had
said
800,000
that was racist while his
manufacturing
mic was
jobs.
muted.
But there's more to be done. There's more to be done. Working class people are still in trouble. I come from Scranton, Pennsylvania. I come of a household where the kitchen table, if the things weren't able to be met during the month, it was a problem. Price of eggs, the price of gas, the price of housing, the price of a whole range of things. That's why I'm working so hard to make sure I deal with those problems. And we're going to make sure that we reduce the price of housing. We're going to make sure we build 2 million new units. We're going to make sure we cap rents so corporate greed can't take over.
He must have been Hawk
Combination
Tua
that was left
a
of
little bit last night with that throat
I
rasp.
know, right?
Yeah,
In
it's like he
addition
just
to
woke
that,
up.
Yeah.
We're in a situation where if you
From his
hadn't
nap.
looked at all that was done in his administration,
Nana nap.
he didn't do much at all. By the time he left, things were in chaos, literally chaos. And so we put things back together. We created I said,
Literally.
those jobs. We make sure we had a situation where we brought down the price of prescription drugs, which is a major issue for many people, to $15 for a insulin shot as opposed to $400.
Uh-oh,
Now,
he's
senior
fighting
have to
already.
pay more than $200 for any drug, all the drugs they can include beginning
Hell yeah.
next year.
All the
And
jugs.
The situation is and we're going to make that available to everybody, to all Americans. So we're working to bring down the price of around the kitchen table, and that's what we're going to get done.
Bring down the
Thank you,
price of the
President
kitchen
Trump.
table.
We have the greatest economy in the history of our country. We have never done so well. Everybody was amazed by it. Other countries were copying us. We got hit with COVID. And when we did, we spent the money necessary so we wouldn't end up in a Great Depression, the likes of which we had in 1929. By the time we finished, so we did a great job. We got a lot of credit for the economy, a lot of credit for the military, and no wars and so many other things. Everything was rocking good. But the thing we never got the credit for, and we should have, is getting us out of that COVID mess. He created mandates that was a disaster for our country. But other than that, we had given them back a country where the stock market actually was higher than pre-COVID, and nobody thought that was even possible.
Can you turn the feed up more?
The only jobs he created are for
I'm
illegal
trying to.
immigrants and bounce-back jobs.
I'm
So
just
bounce back from the
I'm getting
COVID.
some notes.
He has not done a good job. He's done a poor job, and inflation's killing our country. It is absolutely killing us.
Thank you,
It
President
is
Biden.
low. Why is it so
Well, look,
low?
the greatest economy in the world. He's the only one who thinks that, I think. I don't know anybody else who thinks he had the greatest economy in the world. And, the fact of the matter is that
Stay awake,
we find
Joe.
ourselves in a situation where his economy, he rewarded the wealthy. He had the largest tax cut in American history, $2 trillion. He raised a deficit larger than any president has in any one term. He's the only president other than Herbert Hoover who's lost more jobs than he had when he began, since Herbert Hoover.
Come on, we all know what
The idea
happened.
that
COVID
he did
happened.
something that was significant. And the military, when he was president, they were still killing people in Afghanistan. He didn't do anything about that. When he was president, we were still finding ourselves in a position where you had a
Look how you
notion
handled
that
it.
we were this safe country. The truth is, I'm the only president this century that doesn't have this decade, that doesn't have any troops dying anywhere in the world like he did.
President Trump, I want to follow up if I can. You
Am I
want
allowed to respond to him?
Well, I'm going to ask you a follow-up. You can do whatever you want with the minute that we give you. I want to follow up.
That's what Jake's wife tells him
Just
on
no
a regular
props,
basis.
just no props,
coming into
right?
the U.S.
Just don't whip it
How
out.
will you ensure that that doesn't drive prices?
I'm
even
trying to
higher?
get
Not
this
gonna drive
feed
them high.
higher.
It's just going to cost countries that have been ripping us off for years, like China. Fairness to China. Just force them to pay us a lot of money, reduce tremendously, and give us a lot of
What's
power
going
for other
on?
things.
Are they
But
muting
he
his mic?
made a statement. The only thing he was right
No,
about is
you're
I gave
just
you
going
the
up and
down,
largest
yeah.
tax cut in history. I also
I'm
gave you
muting
the
us.
Who are you
largest
working for,
regulation
Brad?
cut in history. That's why we had all the jobs. And the jobs went down, and then they bounced back, and he's taking credit for bounce back jobs. You can't do that. He also said he inherited 9% inflation. No, he inherited almost no inflation, and it stayed that way for 14 months. And then it blew up under his leadership because they spent money like a bunch of people that didn't know what they were doing, and they don't know what they were doing. It was the worst, probably the worst administration in history. There's never been. And as far as Afghanistan is concerned, I was getting out of Afghanistan, but we were getting out with dignity, with strength, with power. He got out. It was the most embarrassing day in the history of our country's life.
President Trump,
No, I
over
thought
the
that was when he
last
pooed
8
his
years,
pants.
Under both of your administrations, the national debt soared to record highs. And according to a new nonpartisan analysis, President Trump,
I'm
your
gonna see if I can
administration
find another
approved
stream.
$8.4 trillion in new debt. Well, so far, President Biden, you've
Sure,
approved
that might be it.
$4.3 trillion in new debt. So, former President Trump, many of the tax cuts that you signed into law are set to expire next year. You want to extend even
Oh, there
further,
I go
you
again.
say. With the facing trillion-dollar
Freaking A,
deficits
man.
and record debt, why should top earners and corporations pay even less in
I
taxes
don't know what's
than they
going
do
on here.
now?
Because the tax cuts spurred the greatest economy that we've ever seen just prior to COVID. And even after COVID, it was so strong that we were able to get through COVID much better than just about any other country. But we spurred, that tax spurred. Now, when we cut the taxes, as an example, the corporate tax was cut down to 21% from 39%, plus beyond that. We took in more revenue with much less tax, and companies were bringing back trillions of dollars back into our country. The country was going like never before, and we were ready to start paying down debt. We were ready to start using the liquid gold right under our feet, the oil and gas right under our feet. We were going to have something that nobody else has had. We got hit with COVID. We did a lot to fix it. I gave him an unbelievable situation with all of the therapeutics and all of the things that we came up with. We gave him something great. Remember, more
Brad, check the
people
chat.
died under his
Our chat.
administration, even though we had largely fixed it. More people died under his administration than our administration, and we were right in the middle of it, something which a lot of people don't like to talk about. But he had far more people dying in his administration. He did the mandate, which is a disaster, mandating it. The vaccine went out. He did a mandate on the vaccine, which is the thing that people most objected to about the vaccine. And he did a very poor job, just a very poor job. And I will tell you, not only poor there, but throughout the entire world, we're no longer respected as a country. They don't respect our leadership. They don't respect the United States anymore. We're like a
think they
third
gave him
world
the slow
nation
motion
between
drug, not the fast drug.
weaponization of his
think so.
election, trying to go after his political opponent. All of the things he's
I don't know
done, we've
what
become
version of
like a
Joe this
third
is.
world nation.
It's just like
And
a
it's
constant
shame.
daze.
The damage he's done to our country, and I'd love to ask him and will why he allowed millions of people to come in here from prisons, jails,
just have to
and mental
compare the way he
institutions
debated
to
4
come
years
into our
ago.
country and destroy our country.
President Trump,
He's
we will get
degraded
to
heaps
immigration
since I saw him.
later in this
Oh,
block.
yeah.
President
Yesterday.
Biden, I want to give you an opportunity to respond to this question about the national debt.
He had the largest national debt of any president in a 4-year period, number one. Number two, he got $2 trillion tax cut, benefited the very wealthy. What I'm going to do is fix the tax system. For example, we have 1,000 trillionaires in America. I mean, billionaires in America.
Oh,
happening?
really?
They're
That
in
was
a
a Freudian
situation
slip.
where they, in fact, pay 8.2% in taxes. If they just paid 24%, 25%, either one of those numbers, they'd raise $500 million.
And what would you
billion
spend it
dollars, I
on,
should
Joe?
say, in a 10-year period. We'd be able to wipe out his debt. We'd be able to help
Depends.
make sure that all those things we need to do, child care, elder care, making sure that we continue to strengthen our
calls it
health
care.
system, making sure that we're able to make every single solitary person eligible for what I've been able to do with with the COVID, with dealing with everything we have to do with. Look, if we finally beat Medicare.
Thank you, President Biden. President Trump?
Quick.
Well, he's right. He did beat Medicare. He beat it to death, and he's destroying Medicare because all of these people are coming in. They're putting them on Medicare. They're putting them on Social Security.
Get the
They're
camera
gonna
off him.
destroy Social Security. This man is going to single-handedly destroy Social
Oh, yeah, no-
Security.
yeah.
These millions and millions of
point.
people coming in, they're trying to put them on Social Security. He will wipe out Social Security. He will wipe out Medicare. So he was right in the way he finished that sentence. And it's a shame. What's happened
Just.
to our country in the last 4 years is not to be believed. Foreign
just call him a
countries,
racist.
I'm friends with a lot of people.
That's all you gotta do,
They
Joe.
cannot believe what happened to the United States of America. We're no longer respected. They don't like us. We give them everything they want, and they think we're stupid. They think we're very stupid people. What we're doing for other countries, and they do nothing
just
for
said
us.
the same
What
thing.
this man has done is absolutely criminal.
Thank you, President Trump. Dana?
This is the first presidential election since the Supreme Court overturned Roe v. Wade.
I can't get this,
This
thing any
morning,
louder. I
the
don't-
court
I
ruled
don't-
There's another
on yet
feed
another
in the
abortion
private
case,
chat. You can try
temporarily
that.
Here,
allowing
we'll
him
try that one.
to continue in Idaho, despite that state's restrictive ban. Former President Trump, you take credit.
We're not
for
really
the
missing
decision
anything,
to
Brad.
overturn
Nobody.
Roe
just-
v. Wade, which returned the issue
There
of
we go.
abortion
Oh, that's
to the
better.
states.
Is that better?
There we
Yeah.
go.
However, the
me
federal
check with
government
my-
still
let me check
plays a
with my tech
role in whether
department.
or not women have access to abortion pills. They're used in about 2/3 of all abortions. As president, would you block abortion medication?
First of all, the Supreme Court just approved the abortion pill, and I agree with their decision to have done that, and I will not block it. And if you look at this whole question that you're asking, complex but not really complex. 51 years ago, you had Roe v. Wade, and everybody wanted to get it back to the states. Everybody, without exception. Democrats, Republicans, liberals, conservatives, everybody wanted it back. Religious leaders. And what I did is I put 3 great Supreme Court justices on the court, and they happened to vote in favor of killing Roe v. Wade and moving it back to the states. This is something that everybody wanted. Now, 10 years ago or so, they started talking about how many weeks and how many this, getting into other things. But every legal scholar throughout the world, the most respected,
Dana Bash
wanted
has a
it brought
shovel
back to
face,
the states.
Denver. I
I did
agree.
that. Now the states are working it out. If you look at Ohio, it was a decision that was an end result that
Look
was
at
a
his
little bit more
face,
liberal
dude.
than you would
What's
have
wrong
thought.
with
It's weird, isn't it?
Kansas, I would say the same thing.
weird. It's
like he's
Texas
watching
is
somebody
different.
get
Florida's
raped.
different. But they're all making their own decisions right now.
And wishing he could be
right now,
involved.
the states
Why is it
control
me?
That's the vote of the people. Like Ronald Reagan, I believe in the exceptions. I am a person that believes. And frankly, I think it's important to believe in the exceptions. Some people, you have to follow your heart. Some people don't believe in that. But I believe in the exceptions for rape, incest, and the life of the mother. I think it's very important. Some people don't. Follow your heart. But You have to get elected also, and because that has to do with other things. You got to get elected. The problem they have is they're radical because they will take the life of a child in the 8th month, the 9th month, and even after birth. After
Trump's
birth, if you
taken
look
a
at the former governor of Virginia,
even keel
he was willing to
approach
do
thus
this.
far.
He said, we'll put
Yeah,
the baby
yeah.
aside and we'll
This is,
determine what we do with the baby, meaning we'll kill the baby.
This is the same Trump you've seen in
What
the
happened is
long-form
we brought
interviews
it back to the
that he's
states,
been
and the
doing.
country is now coming together on this issue. It's been a great thing.
Thank you. President Biden?
It's been a terrible thing, what you've done.
Every
the fact
time.
is that the
Every
vast
time.
majority of
Every time
constitutional
he
scholars
talks, it's
supported Roe when it
hilarious.
was decided. Supported Roe.
Yeah.
And
How
was,
about get
that's
to
this
abortions
idea
for
that
men?
they're all against it.
Absolutely,
It's just
Nate.
ridiculous. And this is the guy who says the state should be able to
SPs
have
wanna
it.
know.
We're in a state where in 6 weeks, you don't even know whether you're pregnant or not, but you cannot see a doctor.
I don't know if
have
I'm
your-
pregnant or not.
And have him
Yeah.
decide on what your circumstances are, whether you need help. The idea that states are able to do
Need
this
help
is
to
a
get
little like
pregnant.
saying we're going to turn civil rights back to the states. Let each state have a different rule. Look, there's so many young women who have been, including a young woman who just was murdered, and he went to the funeral. The idea
did?
that she was murdered by an immigrant coming in. They talk about that, but here's
one
the
you
deal:
let in?
there's a lot of young women are being raped by their in-laws, by their spouses.
He's like, my daughter was
Well,
raped by her
Like
father.
your family, exactly. Like
Just-
me.
it's
I
just
raped
ridiculous.
all my
and
kids.
They can do nothing about it, and they try to arrest them
Well,
when
not
they
an
cross state
immigrant.
lines.
Thank you.
There have been many young women murdered by the same people he allows to come across our border. We have a border that's the most dangerous place anywhere in the world, considered the most dangerous place anywhere in the
pretty
world.
dangerous, but
and
I-
he opened it up, and these
don't
killers
know.
are coming into our country, and they are raping and killing women. And it's a terrible thing. As far as the abortion is concerned, it is now
I think
back
there's
with
some
the
Middle
states.
Eastern
The states are
borders I'd
voting.
rather avoid.
In many cases, it's
Did they
frankly
not
a very
tell
liberal
Joe
decision. In many
his face
cases,
would be
it's
on
the
camera
opposite.
when he wasn't talking?
But they're voting, and it's bringing it back to the vote of the people, which is what everybody wanted,
like a
including
preset.
the founders,
Yeah,
if they
man.
knew about this issue.
He
which
looks like
frankly
he's
they
watching a
didn't.
black person
But they
approach.
would have
Is what
done.
he
He needs that
Everybody
mouth
wanted
tape.
brought back.
You know, the
Ronald
mouth
Reagan
tape,
wanted
so
it
you have
brought
to
back.
breathe
He
through
wasn't
your
able to
nose.
get it. Everybody wanted it brought back, and many presidents had tried to get it back. I was the one to do it. And again, this gives it the vote of the people, and that's where they wanted it. Every legal scholar wanted it that way.
Staying on the topic of abortion, President
He always
Biden,
looks like he's
7
listening
states.
to a earpiece.
I'll let you do that.
Biden.
Oh,
This is the
definitely. Look
same
at him. He
topic.
looks like
7
he's
states
constipated.
have
There's a-
no legal restrictions
am I?
on how
What am I
far
doing?
into a pregnancy a
Who am
woman
I?
can obtain an abortion. Do you support
at
any
his
legal
face.
limits on how
wrong
late a
with him?
woman should be able to terminate a pregnancy?
I supported Roe v. Wade, which had 3 trimesters. The first time is between the woman and the doctor. Second time is between the doctor and an extreme
There's 3
situation.
trimesters. You
The
get 3
third time
tries.
is between the doctor. I mean,
messed it
between
up.
the woman and the state. The idea that the politicians, that the founders wanted the politicians to be the ones making decisions about women's health is ridiculous. That's
Yeah,
the last.
I'm
no
sure-
politician should be making that
I'm sure
decision.
Thomas
A
Jefferson was
doctor should be
concerned
making those
about
decisions.
women's
That's how
health.
it should be run. That's what you're going to do. And if I'm elected,
Didn't
I'm
you
going
read
to
his
restore Roe v.
Yeah.
Wade.
his diary?
Yeah.
He can take the life of the baby in the 9th month and even after birth, because some states, Democrat run, take it after birth. Again, the former governor of Virginia.
They're going to spend half
Put the
the
baby
time on
down, then we
abortion.
decide what to do with it. So
Who
he's
gets muted
he's
first?
willing
Yeah,
to,
can we not
as we
say
say,
after
rip
birth?
the baby out of the womb in the 9th month and kill the baby. Nobody wants that to happen, Democrat or Republican. Nobody
Joe's
wants it to
talking
happen.
while his mic
Yeah.
is muted.
That
Did
is
you see that? They
simply
cut
not
away from
true.
him.
Oh, and then he turned his
Roe v.
mic
Wade
on.
does not provide for that.
They turned his
That's
mic
not the
on.
circumstance.
He wasn't
Only
asked a
woman's life is in
question.
danger. She's going to die.
You're right.
That's the
They're-
only
they're over there
circumstance
flipping
which
those
that
little
can happen.
buttons.
But we are not for late-term
dorks.
abortion. Period. Period. Period.
I bet they
Roe
don't
v.
give him the
Wade,
same
you have
courtesy.
Talking about
late-term
abortion,
You can do whatever you want, depending on the state. You can do whatever you want. We don't think that's a good thing. We think it's a radical thing. We think the Democrats are the radicals, not the Republicans.
For 51 years, that was the law. 51 years, constitutional scholarship said it was the right way to go. 51 years, and it was
Constant
taken away
scholarship?
because this guy put very conservative members on the Supreme Court. He takes credit for taking it away.
Trump's
What's he
been
gonna
putting
do?
conservative
What's he gonna
members
do,
on the
in fact,
Supreme
if-
Court for
if
51
the
years?
MAGA Republicans, he gets elected, and the MAGA Republicans control the Congress, and they pass a universal ban on abortion, period, across the board at 6 weeks or 7 or 8 or 10 weeks, something very, very conservative. Is he going to sign that bill? I'll veto it.
Trump
He'll
just
sign it.
has to let
Thank
Biden
you.
self-destruct.
Let's turn now to the issue of immigration and border security.
Oh, yeah,
President
so they're not
Biden,
gonna
a
turn his
record
mic
number of
on.
Migrants
No.
have illegally
Yeah.
crossed the
Yeah.
southern border on your watch. Overwhelming border states and overburdening cities such as New York and Chicago, and in some
Tapper dressed
cases
like a
causing real
jackass.
safety and security concerns.
'Cause he's a
Given that, why
jackass.
should voters trust you
thought he'd wear
to
that
solve this
vest
crisis?
underneath.
Because we worked very hard to get a bipartisan agreement that not only changed all of that, it made sure that we are in a situation where you had no circumstance where they could come across the border with the number of border police there are now. We significantly increased the number of asylum officers. Significantly, by the way, the Border Patrol endorsed me, endorsed my position. In addition to that, we found ourselves in a situation where, when he was president, he was separating babies from their mothers, putting them in cages,
Also a
making
lot.
sure they were the families
many
were
cages?
separated. That's
Putting
not the
babies
right way
and
to
mothers
go.
in cages.
What I've done since I've changed the law, what's
They're
happened?
like a dog
I've changed
kennel.
it in
You
a
can
way
go
that
adopt
now
one.
He
we're in a
knows he's full
situation
of
where
shit. He's
there are
trying to push
40%
Trump
fewer
buttons. He
people
I
knows
think-
that was an
border
Obama
legally.
policy.
It's better
He
when
knows
left
that.
office. And I'm going
He
to
also
continue
knows
to move until we get the
He
total
didn't say the
ban
bleach thing.
on
And he didn't say the bleach thing.
The total initiative relative to what we're going
They
to do.
want
with
to provoke
more
Trump
Border
into
Patrol
speaking
and
while his
more
mic is muted, so
asylum
they can
officers.
interpret
President
him
Trump?
as saying things.
I really don't know what he said at the end of this. I don't think he knows what he said either. Look,
Yes,
we had the
Yes.
safest border in the history of our country.
that's
The border, all he had to
hilarious.
do was leave it. All he had to do was leave it. He decided to open up our border, open up our country to people that are from prisons, people that are from mental institutions, insane asylum, terrorists. We have the largest number
think
of
the
terrorists
drug they
coming
gave
into our
Biden
country
was
right now. All
mushrooms.
terrorists,
Yes, he gave him
all
the
over world,
wrong
not just in
drug.
South America, all
Whoever
over
was
the world.
back
They come
there
from
was
the
too
Middle East,
busy
everywhere.
having
All over the
a
world, they're
gay
pouring
trans
in.
orgy.
And this
Got
guy
the drugs
just
mixed
left
up.
it open, and he
Right.
didn't need legislation because I didn't have legislation. I said,
don't know
close
which
the border.
one
We
it
had
is.
the safest border in history. In that final couple of months
Try
of
that
my
one.
presidency, we had, according to Border Patrol, who is great, and by the way, who endorsed
Yeah,
me
how many
for president,
memes are going to be
but I won't
made
say that,
from these
but they endorsed me
Biden
for
facial
president.
Yeah,
expressions?
Brandon,
I'll be
just
doing a
speak to
couple
him.
of them at least.
But look,
It's- yeah,
we had the
it's
safest
not
border in
good.
history. Now we have the worst border in history. There's never been anything like it, and
How
people are
can,
dying all
after
over the
seeing
place,
them side by
including the
side
people
in
that are
real
coming
time,
up
how
in
can
caravans.
anyone say
President Biden?
The
that
only
Trump is
terrorist
as
who's done anything
declined
across
as
the border
Biden?
is one who
How
came
can
along
anyone
and
say
killed
that?
three under
That's
his administration,
ridiculous.
killed an Al Qaeda person come in
Absolutely.
and his administration, killed 3 American soldiers, killed 3 American soldiers. That's the only terrorist that's there.
It's so
I'm not
comical.
saying that no terrorist ever got through, but the idea they're emptying their prisons, we're welcoming these people, that's simply not true. There's no data to support what he said. Once again, he's exaggerating, he's lying.
Since when does that matter?
President Trump, staying on the topic of immigration, you've said that you're going to carry out, quote, the largest domestic deportation operation
Yeah,
in
and
American
almost
history,
everyone in the
unquote.
country
Does that
supports
mean
it.
that you will deport every undocumented immigrant in America, including
like
those who have
62%
jobs, including
support on
those
this
whose
policy
spouses are citizens, and including
Yeah.
those who have lived here for decades? And if so, how will you do it?
Just 1 second. He said
with
we
a
killed
broom and
3
a
people.
dustpan.
The people we killed are al-Baghdadi and Soleimani, the 2 greatest terrorists, biggest terrorists anywhere in the world, and it had
And
a
he's
huge
frozen.
impact on
He's
everything.
literally
not just border,
frozen.
on everything.
I love it.
This is not a
He's
cheap
the one that
fake.
killed
He's
people with the
frozen.
bad water, including
Let it go.
hundreds of
He
thousands
looks
of
like
people dying, and
He's pooed his
also
pants.
killing our citizens when they
the
come
preacher
in.
from the
We
Poltergeist
are
movie.
living right now
Hi
in a
there,
rat's
lamb.
nest. They're killing our people in
I'm
New
your
York, in
friend.
California, in every state in the union because we don't have borders
I
anymore.
don't even
Every
know how he
state is
stands
now a
that
border.
still. That's
And because of
impressive
his
in and of itself.
ridiculous,
I think he's wondering that
insane,
right
and very
now.
Stupid policies. People are coming in and they're killing our citizens
Who's
at a
this guy?
level that we've never seen. We call it migrant crime.
Yeah.
I call it
Yeah, hi, I'm Joe
migrant
Biden.
crime.
Biden
They're killing our
migrant
citizens at a
crime.
level
You
that
are?
we've never seen before. And you're reading it like these 3 incredible young girls over the last few days. One of them, I just spoke to the mother, and they just had the funeral for this girl, 12 years old. This is horrible what's taken place. What's taken place in our country, we're literally an uncivilized country now. He doesn't want it to be. He just doesn't know. He opened the borders. Nobody's ever seen anything like. And we have to get a lot of these people out,
Look
and we
at
have
this.
to get them out
He
fast.
looks like a
because they're
dried
going to destroy
corn
our
husk.
country. Just take a look at where they're living. They're living in luxury
Less
hotels.
appealing.
This is
in
not
New York City
good.
and other places. Our veterans
I'm gonna-
are on
I'm
the
gonna
street.
make-
They're dying
I'm gonna
because he
make
doesn't care
Biden
about our
corn
veterans. He
husk
doesn't
folk
care. He
art,
doesn't like the
and we're
military
gonna
at
sell
all.
it, Brad.
And he doesn't care
I'm
about our
down,
veterans.
dude.
Nobody been worse. I had
yeah,
the
Biden
highest
corn
approval
dollies.
rating for
He's
veterans
taking a
taking
nap
care
right
of the
now.
VA.
Yeah.
He is the worst. He's gotten rid of all the things
He
that I
does, Steve,
approved,
look like he
choice
could,
that I
like-
got through Congress.
He's
I'm
gonna
seriously
fall
worried
apart.
something's
Things
going to
I
happen to
approved.
Biden. Just
They abandoned. We had by
feel like
far
it's
the
gonna have
highest,
androids
and
on
now
stage.
he's down in less than half because he's done all these great things that we did, and I think he did it just because I approved it, which is crazy. But he has killed so many people at our border by
Thank you,
allowing
President Trump.
all of these people to come in.
Thank you,
President
It's a
Biden.
very sad day
Thank you,
in
President
America.
President
Trump.
Biden, you have the mic.
Every single thing he said is a lie. Every single one. For example,
Every single
veterans
one.
are a hell of a lot better off since I passed the PACT
So you
Act.
got?
1 million of them now have insurance, and their
So
families
Trump
have
faces camera because
Their
he knows how to
families
do
have
it.
because what happened,
Biden turns, so they have
whether
to
it was
keep
Agent
switching
Orange or
frames to help
burn
Biden
pits,
out.
They're
Camera
all being
frames.
covered now, and he opposed his group opposed that. We're also in a situation where
what?
we have great respect for
In
veterans.
political
my
debates,
son
can
spent
we
a
just
year in
take
Iraq.
accusing each
And
other
they
of
went
lying
next to one
off the
those burn
table?
pits,
Because
came back with
Wasting
they all
time,
fucking do
right?
it.
glioblastoma. I was
Yeah.
recently in,
You move on from first grade.
France for D-Day, and I spoke all about those heroes that died. I went to the World War II cemetery.
He does look
World
like
War
the-
I cemetery. He refused to go.
Yes.
to.
Rocky's trainer.
He was standing with his four-star
And-
general, and he
and,
told me, he said, I
when
don't
he-
want to
when
go in
Rocky's
there because
getting his
they're a bunch
ass
of
whipped.
losers and
Oh,
suckers.
yeah.
My son was not a
Damn,
loser.
Brett's
He was
good.
not a sucker. You're the sucker. You're the loser.
Burgess
President Trump.
Meredith?
First of all, that was a made-up quote.
Is it-
Suckers
no,
and
the other
losers,
guy.
they
I know
made
you're
it up.
talking
It was in
about.
a third-rate magazine that's failing, like many of these magazines. He made that up. He put it in commercials.
You're
We've
a bum
notified
rock.
him. We had 19 people that said I didn't say it. And think of this. Who would say I'm at a cemetery or I'm talking about our veterans? Because nobody's taken better care. I'm so glad this came up and he brought it up. There's nobody that's taken better care of our soldiers than I have.
He?
To think that I would, in
Look
front
at-
of generals and others,
Does
say,
he think he's
"Suckers
looking
and
tough?
losers." We have
Is he going to
19
pull out his
people
aviator? Is he
that
going to
said
pull out his
it
aviator
was never
sunglasses
said
and
by
put them
me.
on?
It was made up by him, just
clearly
like Russia,
didn't
Russia,
practice in
Russia was
front of the
made
mirror
up.
before he
Just
left.
like the 51 intelligence
How can anyone
agents
vote
are
for
made
this
up.
guy?
Just like the new thing with the
Get up,
16
Rock.
economists
Yeah.
are talking.
That's what
It's
all the
same
immigrants
thing.
are for.
51 intelligence agents said that the laptop was Russia disinformation. It wasn't.
It's all-
That
I mean,
came
it's-
from his son Hunter. It wasn't Russia disinformation. He made up the suckers and losers story. He should
Suckers and
apologize to me
losers
right
were
now.
the pictures with Hunter
Four-star
on the
general
laptop.
standing to
Yeah.
your side who was on your staff who said you said it, period. That's number one. And number two, the idea that I have to apologize to you for anything along the line. We've done more for veterans than any president has in American history. American history. And they now are in their family. The only sacred obligation we have as a country is to care for
Ask
our
the
veterans
guys
when
who
they come
lost
home
to arm or
and
a
their
leg in
families, and
Afghanistan,
equip
how
them when
they
they go
feel
to
about
war.
your
That's what
withdrawal.
we're doing. That's what the VA is doing now. They're doing more for veterans than ever before in our history.
All right, thank you so much.
Let's move to the topic of foreign policy.
imagine if
I wanna
Trump had
begin with
those
Russia's
expressions on his
war
face?
against
That'd be funny if they
Ukraine,
both
which
had
is
the same
now in its
expression like
third year.
that. I know. Looking
Former
towards each other.
President Trump, Russian President Vladimir Putin says he'll only end this war if Russia keeps the Ukrainian territory it has already claimed and Ukraine abandons
She is a shovel
its bid
face. There's
to
no doubt
join
about
NATO.
it. You could pick her
Yeah,
up by
what's-
the feet
Are
and dig a
Putin's
hole in
terms
your yard.
acceptable
Yeah.
to you?
What's with the long
First
face?
of all, our veterans and our soldiers can't stand this guy. They can't stand him. They think he's the worst commander in chief, if that's what you call him, that we've ever had. They can't stand him. So let's get that straight. And they like me more than just about any of them. And that's based on every single bit of information.
one.
As far as
think I
Russia
turned his
and
mic on.
Ukraine, if we had a real president, the president that knew
You
that
could
was
hear him laugh. His
respected by
mic was
Putin,
on, it sounds like.
Yeah.
he would have
Yeah, they're
never.
not
He
gonna
would have
mute
never
Biden. They're in
invaded
a
Ukraine.
fucking bag for
A
him.
lot of people are dead right now, much more than people know. You know, they talk about numbers. You can double those numbers, maybe triple those numbers. He did nothing to stop it. In fact, I think he encouraged Russia from going in. I'll tell you what happened. He was so bad with Afghanistan. It was such a horrible embarrassment, most embarrassing moment in the history of our country, that when Putin watched that and he saw the incompetence, that he should have fired those generals, like I fired the one that you mentioned. And so he's got no love lost, but he should have fired those generals. No general got fired
Who is he
for the most
looking at?
embarrassing
Biden.
moment in the history of our country, Afghanistan,
Mom.
where we left billions of dollars of equipment behind. We lost 13 beautiful soldiers,
Help
and
me.
38 soldiers were obliterated. And by the way, we left people behind too. We left American citizens behind. When Putin saw that, he said, you know what? I think we're going to go in and maybe take my. This was his
Just
dream. I
bring
talked to
up
him
Ashley
about it, his
Biden's
dream.
diary,
The
please.
difference is
Please
he
bring that
never
up.
would
Yeah.
have invaded
Let's get juicy.
Ukraine. Never. just like
He
Israel
didn't
would
get
have never
the right set
been
of eyes on
invaded
this morning, did he?
in a million years by Hamas. You know why? Because Iran was broke with me. I wouldn't let anybody do business with them. They ran out of money. They were broke. They had no money for Hamas. They had no money for anything. No money for terror. That's why you had no
What do you think
terror
Biden's
at
writing?
all during my administration. This place, the whole world
I
is
don't think
blowing
he,
up
he
under him.
knows. He's
President Biden?
I've never heard so much malarkey in my whole life. Look, the fact
That,
of
is
the
that how
matter
he's,
that
is that
we're in a
every
situation
single
where- let's take
every
the last
time he's
point
just going to
first.
say that?
Starts with an ad
Iran
hominem.
attacked
Yep.
American troops, caused brain damage for a number of these troops, and he did nothing about it. Recently, not when he was president, they attacked. He said they're just
Yeah.
having headaches. That's all it is.
Trump's
He didn't do a
trainers
thing
must have put
when
a
the attack
shot
took
collar
place,
on
number
him
one.
and used
Number
it during
two,
training
we
for
got
every
over
time he had an outburst that was
100,000 Americans
uncontrolled
and others out
to keep him
of
disciplined.
Afghanistan
I think
during that airlift.
he
Number
probably
three,
recognized
found
right
ourselves
off
in
the
a
bat here that
situation where
Biden is just
if you
not
take
there
a look
right
at
now.
what
This is-
Trump did in Ukraine. This guy told Trump, do whatever you want and do whatever you want. And that's exactly what Trump did.
Jim Crow genocide
to
Joe
Putin,
says
encourage him, do whatever you want.
Yeah.
And he went in. And listen
Jim
to what
Eagle.
he said when
Remember
he
he
went
said
in.
Jim
He
Eagle?
was going to take Kyiv in 5 days, remember?
It's not Jim
Because
Crow,
it's part
it's
of the
Jim
old
Eagle.
Soviet Union. That's what he wanted to reestablish. Kyiv. And he, in fact, didn't do it at all. He wasn't able to get it done. And they've lost thousands and thousands of troops, 500,000 troops.
President Trump, as
I
I
never
come back
said
to you
that.
for 1 minute, I just want to go back to my original question, which is, are Putin's terms acceptable to you? Keeping the
No, they're
territory
not
in Ukraine?
acceptable. No, they're not acceptable. But look, this is a war that never should have started.
both these
If we had a
moderators
leader in
are
this war,
intel assets.
He led everybody along.
You
He's
think?
given $200 billion now or
Never
more
expected that.
to Ukraine. He's given $200 billion. That's a lot of money. I don't think
Lot of
there's ever
money.
been anything like it. Every time that Zelensky comes to this country, he walks away with $60 billion. He's the greatest salesman
I need
ever.
another
And I'm
$1
not
billion.
knocking him. I'm not knocking anything. I'm only saying
It's his shoe
the
addiction.
money that we're
Loves those high
spending
heels.
on this war, and we shouldn't be spending, it should have never happened. I will have that war settled between Putin and Zelensky as president-elect before I take office on January 20th. I'll have that war settled.
You know-
people being killed so needlessly, so stupidly.
They released the
and
hostages
I will
right
get it
after
settled,
Carter
and I'll
was
get it settled fast
ousted.
before I take office.
President Biden, you have a minute.
I
I wish
wondered-
Carter was on this
The
debate
fact
stage
is
with the
that
two of
Putin
them.
is a
Yeah.
war
Oh, my
criminal.
God.
He's killed thousands and thousands of people. And he has made one thing clear. He wants to reestablish what was part of the Soviet Empire, not just a piece. He wants all of Ukraine. That's what he wants. And then you think he'll stop there? Do you think he'll stop when
He's gonna
he-
march. He's gonna
if he-
march
if he
across the
takes
world.
Ukraine?
He'll be
What
here
do you think
next.
happens to
Yeah.
Poland? What do you
He's
think
gonna take South Carolina
What
after
do you
he
think
takes
happens to
Ukraine.
those
Come to
NATO
Atlanta.
countries?
Yeah,
And so
he's
if you
gonna
want
be
a war,
king
you
of
ought to
Atlanta.
find out what he's
Yeah.
going to do, because if in fact he does what he says
Hello,
and walks
Atlanta.
away. By the way, all that money we give Ukraine are from weapons we make here in the United States. We give them the weapons, not the money at this point. And our NATO allies have produced as much funding for Ukraine as we have. That's why we're strong.
Thank you. Moving on to the Middle East.
very strong
In
statement.
October, Hamas attacked Israel, killing more than 1,000 people and taking hundreds of hostages. Among those held and thought to still be
They
alive
seem
are
very
5
far away
Americans.
from the moderators for
Israel's
having no
response
audience.
has killed thousands of Palestinians and created a
Would you want to be
humanitarian
near
crisis
these?
in Gaza.
No,
No,
the
President
smells
Biden-
coming from that stage.
You've
The
put
staging
forward
is
a
bizarre.
proposal
Yeah,
to
I
resolve
agree, Ian.
this conflict. But so far, Hamas
It's
has not
strategic
released
for sure. There's no doubt.
the
But
remaining
But all,
hostages,
all,
and Israel is
all of these
continuing
news
its military
sets,
offensive
they
in Gaza.
all look like
So
they're
what
a room
additional
on a
leverage
spaceship
will you
orbiting the planet.
use
Yeah,
to get
or
Hamas
underground,
and
perhaps.
Israel to end the
Yes.
war? You have 2
Her
minutes.
face is
It's
so
very good AIP
Everyone
backgrounds.
from the United Nations Security Council,
Yeah, you can
straight
do-
through
you
the
can do it.
G7 to the Israelis, and Netanyahu himself have endorsed the plan I put forward. Which has 3 stages to it. The first stage is trade the hostages for a ceasefire.
Think you can get through all
Second phase
3?
is a ceasefire with additional conditions. The third phase is the end of the war. The only one who wants the war to
And-
continue
No
is
end of the
Hamas,
war.
Number
And-
one.
and
We're the only
Biden's
ones
supposedly
standing
gonna go
up. We're
speak at
still
this
pushing hard from
Democrat
to get them to
watch party
accept. In the
afterwards,
meantime,
which I actually
what's
got an
happened?
email telling me
In
not to
Israel,
come
we're
to from
finding
one of the
the only
organizers.
thing I've denied
Really?
Israel
Yeah, I'll tell you
was
about it at the break.
2,000-pound bombs.
love it.
They don't work very well in populated areas. They kill a lot of innocent people. We're providing Israel with all the weapons they need and when they need them. And by the way, I'm the guy that organized
somebody
the
get
world
corn pop.
against Iran when they had a full-blown intercontinental ballistic missile attack on Israel. No one was hurt. No one Israeli was accidentally killed, and it just stopped. We saved Israel.
He
We are
just
the
shouldn't be.
biggest
This is not something he should be
producer
doing.
of support for Israel of anyone in the world, and so they're two different things.
It's like watching a stand-up
Hamas
comedian
cannot
bomb in front of a
allow it
huge
to be
crowd.
Continue. We continue
yeah.
to send our experts and our intelligence people as to how they can get Hamas like we did bin Laden. You don't have to do it. And by the way, they've been greatly weakened, Hamas, greatly weakened, and they should be. They should be eliminated. But you've got to be careful for what using certain weapons among population centers.
Just going back to Ukraine for 1 second.
Am I finished?
We have an ocean separating us. The European nations together have spent 100 billion, or maybe more than that, less than us. Why doesn't he call them and say, you got to put up your money like I did with NATO? I got them to put up hundreds of
doing
billions of dollars. The
Can you imagine
Secretary
eating
General
dinner across
of
from
NATO
that
said Trump did the
expression?
most
Yeah.
incredible
You're like,
job I've ever seen.
You gotta
They
finish
wouldn't
that.
have any. They were going
You
out
gotta
of business.
finish
We were
that.
spending
I'll
almost
eat it.
100% of
That's
the
what,
money
that's the
was,
face
that was
Jill
paid
sees
by
when,
us.
you know,
He didn't
Right,
do
she's
that.
getting
before he
raw
bites
dogged.
her-
He's getting
right
old.
before he bites
you
her
gotta
finger.
ask these
Remember he-
people to
remember
put
when he
up
bit
the
her
money.
finger?
We're over $100 billion more spent, and it has a bigger impact on them because of location, because we have an ocean in between. You got to ask them. As far as Israel and Hamas, Israel's the one that wants to go. He said the only one that wants to keep going is Hamas. Actually, Israel is the one, and you should let him go and let him finish the job. He doesn't want to do it.
Same.
He's become like a Palestinian. But
They
they
should
don't
throw a
like him
physical
because he's a very
challenge
bad
into these
Palestinian. He's a
debates.
weak one.
President
They're both
Biden, you have a
pro
minute.
Israel.
I've never
There's
heard
no
so
doubt
much
about it.
foolishness.
Yeah.
This is a guy who wants to get out of NATO.
another
You
ad
gonna stay in
hominem.
NATO? He's going to pull out of NATO.
You see him raise his
The
eyebrows like,
idea that
maybe.
we have our strength
I love
lies
it.
in our alliances
maybe we'll
as
get
well.
out of NATO. We'll see.
There may be a big ocean, but
They should get out of NATO.
Maybe exactly.
in Europe, a major war
What-
in
what is
Europe.
this allegiance
What
to
happens
all
if,
these
in fact, you
failed
have
institutions?
Putin continue to go into NATO? We have an Article 5 agreement. Attack on one is attack on all. You want to start the nuclear war he keeps talking about, go ahead. Let Putin go in and control Ukraine and then move on to Poland and
was
other
it again?
places.
I wish we would have spent
It
more time on
happens then.
grocery
He
prices.
has no idea what the hell he's talking about. And by the way, I got 50 other nations around the world to support Ukraine, including Japan and South
Who
Korea.
gives a shit?
'cause they
That's not a
understand
selling
that
point.
this-
I guess for his
this kind of
base it is.
dislocation
And Trump
has a
does have about
serious
6
threat
more
to the
months
whole world
experience as
peace.
president.
No major
That's true.
war in
You
Europe
should
has
say
ever
that.
been able to be
I'm a little
contained
more.
just to Europe.
He's
I am a
inexperienced.
little
He's
more
green.
experienced.
President Trump, just to follow up, would you support the creation of an independent Palestinian state in order to achieve peace in the region?
I'd have to see, but before we do that,
Yeah,
the
give him a
problem
chance
we
to
have
respond.
is that we spend all the money. So they kill us on trade. I made great trade deals with the European nations because if you add them up, they're about the same size economically. Their economy is about the same size as the United States. And they were no cars, they don't want anything that we have, but we're supposed to take their cars, their food, their everything, their agriculture. I changed that. But the big thing I changed is they don't want to pay. And the only reason that he can play games with NATO is because I got them to put up hundreds of billions of dollars. I said, and he's right about this, I said, no, I'm not going to support NATO if you don't pay. They asked me that question, would you guard us against Russia at a very secret meeting of the 28 states at that time, nations at that time? And I said, no, if you don't pay, I won't do that. And you know what happened? Billions and billions of dollars came flowing in the next day and the next months. But now we're in the same position. We're paying
Ryan, take
everybody's
another quick
bills.
nap.
Let's turn to the issue of democracy. Former President Trump, I want to ask you about January 6, 2021. After you rallied your supporters that day, some of them stormed the Capitol to stop the constitutionally mandated counting of electoral votes. As president, you swore an oath to, quote, preserve, protect, and defend, unquote, the Constitution. What do you say to voters who believe that you violated that oath through your actions and inaction on January 6th and
You've been
worry that you'll do it again?
propagandized.
Well, I don't think
That's
too
what I'd
many
say.
believe that. And let me tell you about January 6th. On January 6th, we had a great border. Nobody coming through, very few. On January 6th, we were energy independent. On January 6th, we had the lowest taxes ever.
Biden
We had the
taking some
lowest
notes.
regulations
Smart
ever.
move.
On January 6th, we were respected all
smart
over the
debate
world.
move.
All
Yes.
over the world, we were respected.
Yep.
And then he comes in, and we're now laughed at. We're like a bunch of stupid people.
Oh, went to shit.
What happened to the United States'
Yeah, you're right,
reputation
Denver.
under
The
this
question is a
man's
false
leadership
premise.
is horrible, including weaponization, which I'm sure at some point you'll be talking about, where he goes after his political opponent because he can't beat him fair and square.
You think Tapper will
You
slip
have 80
and-
seconds
and-
left. My question was, what do
Say-
you say to those voters who believe that you violated your constitutional oath through your actions and inaction on January 6, 2021, and worry that you'll do it again?
Well, I didn't say that to anybody.
double
I
down
said
the false
peacefully
premise.
and patriotically. And Nancy Pelosi, if you just watched the news from 2 days ago,
Yeah.
on tape to her daughter, who's a documentary filmmaker, they say, but she's saying, oh, no, it's my responsibility. I was responsible for this because I offered her 10,000 soldiers or National Guard, and she turned them down. And the mayor of, in writing, by the way, the mayor, in writing, turned it down, the mayor of D.C., they turned it down. I offered 10,000
They'll
because
probably report
I
Trump
could
couldn't
see-
remember the
I
name
had
of the mayor of
virtually
DC.
nothing to do. They asked me to go make a speech. I could see what was happening. Everybody was saying they're going to be there on January 6th. They're going to be there. And I said, you know what? There's a lot of people coming. You could feel it. You could feel it too, and you could feel it. And I said, they ought to have some National Guard or whatever. And I offered it to her. And she now admits that she turned it down. And it was the same day she was, I don't know, she can't be very happy with her daughter because it made her into a liar. She said, I take full responsibility for January 6th.
He was a
President
liar
Biden.
long before that.
Oh, really?
Look, he encouraged those folks to go up on Capitol Hill, number one. I
what?
sat in the dining room off the Oval Office. He sat there for 3 hours watching, begging, being begged by his vice president and a number of his colleagues on the Republican side as well
Stop
to do
these
something,
people
to call
from
for a stop,
walking
to end it.
calmly.
Instead, they talked about these people being patriots and great
after the
patrons
police
of
let them
America.
inside.
In fact, he says he'll now forgive them for what they've done.
Shot
He'll-
bleach up their
They've
arms.
been convicted. He says he wants to commute their sentences and say that no.
Trump should
He
also
went
say
to
he's gonna
every
pardon
single court in
Hunter.
the nation. I don't know how many cases, scores of cases, including the Supreme Court, and they said no, this guy is responsible for doing what was done. He didn't do a damn thing, and these people should be in jail, and they
Did he-
should
he
be the
was in
ones who
the-
are being held accountable. And he wants
whatever
to
they
let
call
them
it,
all
the
out.
beast,
And now
and
he
he
says if he loses again,
dove in
such
the
a
front
whiner
seat and
that
tried
he
to
is,
rip the
Oh,
steering
yeah.
wheel
Another
away.
fake
bloodbath.
story.
Thank you, President
They're all
Biden.
fake
President
stories.
Trump?
That's fucking crazy.
What they've done to some people that are so innocent, you ought to be ashamed of yourself. What you have done, how you've destroyed the
Notice
lives
how
of
Trump
so many
recognizes
people.
how to stand with a
When
camera,
they ripped down
staging, while
Portland, when they
Biden
ripped
doesn't.
down many other cities. You go to
because
Minnesota,
Trump's been nominated
Minneapolis,
for like
what
9
they've done
Emmys.
there,
Yeah,
with the
you don't
fires
television,
all
you
over
know
the
you gotta
city. If
do
I didn't
like-
bring in
Yeah.
the National Guard, that
he
city
gets
would have
it.
been destroyed. When you look at all of the
I bet they have so
they
many
took over
cameras
big
around
chunks
there to
of
switch
Seattle.
to
I was all
cover how
set to bring
Biden
in the
is just-
National
Yeah.
Guard. They heard that. They saw them coming, and they left immediately. What he said about this whole subject is so off. Peacefully patriotic. One other thing. The Unselect Committee, which is basically two horrible Republicans that are all gone now out of office,
And Adam Schiff, the-
Democrats, all Democrats. They
Grossest looking
destroyed
person in
and
history.
deleted all of the information they found because they found out we were right. We were right. And they deleted and
Adam
destroyed
Schiff has
all
a
of the
pussy.
information. They should go to jail for that. If a Republican did that, they'd go to jail.
Thank you, President Trump. President Biden, I want to give you a minute.
The only person on this stage is a
That's what
convicted
Jill- that's what
felon,
Jill
is the man I'm
says.
looking at right now. And the fact of the matter is, what he's telling you is simply not true. The fact is that there was no effort on his part to stop what was going on up in Capitol Hill, and all those people, every one of those
Trump's
who were
having a
convicted
good hair day.
deserves to be convicted. The idea
quite
that
shiny.
they didn't
Yeah.
kill somebody,
I
just went in
mean,
and
say
broke
what you will
down
about Trump, the
doors,
guy gets
broke the
optics
windows,
and television.
occupied
You know?
offices, turned over desks, turned them over
His
statues.
flag is-
the idea that those
Is
people
better
are
than
patriots.
Joe's too.
Yep.
Come on.
He does a
flag thing.
great
I asked him
resting
the
bitch
first
face.
two debates
Yeah.
we had, the debates we had first time around. I said, "Will you denounce the Proud Boys?" He said, "No, I'll tell them to stand by."
Well, say
The
this.
idea he's refusing to, will you
Say that
denounce these guys?
Neo-Nazis
Denounce the
are good
people we're
people
talking about
thing.
now?
Proud
Denounce
Boys,
the people who
stand
attacked
by
that
and stand
Capitol?
back.
What are you going to do?
I'm going to give you a minute, President Trump, for a follow-up.
Biden looks like he
question I
wants to
have.
wander over to Trump.
How many
After a
times
jury
do
convicted
you think Tapper
of
will slip and
34
call him
felonies
President
last
Hitler?
month, you said
like
if
once or
reelected,
twice?
I hope
you would,
so.
quote, have every right to go after, unquote, your political opponents. You just talked about members of the Select Committee on January 6th going to jail. Your main political opponent is standing on stage with you tonight. Can you clarify exactly what it means about you feeling you have every right to go after your political opponents?
Well, I said my retribution is going to be success. We're going to make
That
this
is what he
country
said, but they
successful
lied about
again,
what he
because right
said.
now it's a failing nation. My
Yeah,
retribution
Tapper
is going
just
to be
keeps coming up
success.
with these
But when
bullshit
he
false
talks about a
premise
convicted
questions.
felon, his son is a convicted felon at a very high level. His son is convicted, going to be convicted probably numerous other times.
Ooh, he
Should
brought
have
it up
been
first.
convicted before, but his Justice
think he should
Department
say
let
pardon Hunter
the
for the
statute of
bullshit gun
limitations
charge and go
lapse
after
on the
him for
most
the other
important
ones.
thing.
But make Joe agree
But
to
he
vote
could
for
be a
him.
convicted felon as soon as he gets
Right.
out of office. Joe could be a convicted felon with all of the things that he's done. He's done horrible
Absolutely.
things. All of the death caused at the border, telling the Ukrainian people that we're going to want $1 billion or you change the prosecutor. Otherwise, you're not getting $1 billion. Have I ever said that? That's quid pro quo. That we're not going to do anything. We're not going to give you $1 billion unless you change your prosecutor having to do with the son. This man is a criminal.
Yeah.
This
I mean,
man.
that
you're
is a
lucky.
fair point,
You're lucky.
and
I
there
did
is
nothing
never a
wrong.
good answer
We'd
to
have a
that
system
charge.
that was rigged and disgusting. I did nothing wrong.
Thank you, President
an
Trump.
ad
President
hominem.
Biden, you have said, I'm coming right to you, sir.
I'm coming over
well,
to you,
want
sir.
to respond? Go ahead. I'll give you a minute
So
to respond.
he answered that.
The
He was
idea
with a good tone.
That idea
he
is
could have been
wrong
aggressive
relative
about
to
it, but
what
he
you're talking
wasn't.
about is outrageous. It's simply a lie, number one. Number two, the
Yeah, when you-
idea that you
Like
have a right
Trump
to
won't
seek
even look at
retribution
him.
against
He's
any
not even
American
giving him.
just
He's
because
not
you're
even going to turn
president
that
Yeah.
way.
is
So
wrong.
smart.
It's
So
simply
smart.
wrong. No president's ever spoken like that before. No president in our history has spoken like that before.
That's
Number
not true.
three, the crimes that you are still charged
Very
with. And
weak
think of all the
arguments.
civil penalties you have. How many billions of dollars do you owe in civil penalties for molesting a woman in public, for
Uh-oh.
doing a whole range of things?
Now,
of having
he's got a lot of
sexual
nerves to
assault
bring
Now it's getting
on
the most
dirty, yeah.
obviously
While your
bogus
wife
thing
was
you've ever read.
pregnant.
Anybody knows about that.
What are you
Cue
talking
Ashley
about?
Biden.
Yes,
You have the morals
please
of an alley cat.
bring up
Please,
Ashley Biden.
Please bring up
Wait a
taking
minute, sir.
showers
I
with your
didn't have
daughter.
sex with a porn star, number one. Number two, that was a case that was started and moved. They moved a high-ranking official, a DOJ, into
She
the
wasn't a
Manhattan
star.
DA's
She was middle of the
office
road
to
and
start
up and
that
coming.
case. That case is going to be appealed and won. We had a very terrible judge, a horrible judge, Democrat.
All of this is true.
The prosecutor were all high-ranking
I don't know if he
Democrats,
banged or not,
appointed
but-
people,
No.
and
All of
both
it's
the
fucking
civil
true.
Yeah,
and the
he's saying.
criminal. He basically went after his political opponent
He did.
because he thought it was going to damage me. But when the public found out about these cases, because they
Explain why
understand
Fannie
it better
Willis,
than he does, he has no
visited
idea
the
what
White
these
House
cases
so
are.
often.
But when they
What
found out
business
about
does
these
she have
cases,
there?
you know what they did? My poll numbers went up way
Baconator
up. You know
shortage in
that
this
because you're
country because
reporting
of
it.
Fannie Willis.
And we took in more money in the last 2 weeks than we've ever taken in the history of any campaign. I don't think any campaign has ever taken
What is
hundreds of
Biden doing when
millions
he's
of
looking
dollars
over to the
came
left?
pouring in
I think he's
because
looking
the
for,
public knows
can
it's
you
a
believe what
scam,
this guy's
and
saying?
it's a guy that's
Yeah.
after his political
Yeah,
opponent
I
because
think
he can't
I
win
think he
fair
sees
and
a
square.
crowd out
Thank
there.
you, President Trump. President
some
Biden,
people
you
there,
have
like
said,
staffers
quote,
and-
Donald Trump and his MAGA
trying to remember
Republicans
where he is.
are determined
Yeah.
to destroy American democracy. Do you believe that the tens of millions of Americans who are likely to vote for President Trump will be voting against American democracy?
The more they know about what he's done, yes. The more they know about what
Wait,
he's
so
done.
this
I'm
is-
going to
There's
vote
more coming.
against
He's got a lot of
democracy.
cases
That's
down
the
the road coming
stupidest
out.
fucking
He's
thing
got-
I've
he's
ever
got a
heard.
whole
That's
range
that
of
is
issues he
a
has to
framing
face.
to
I don't know what the juries will do.
declare
but I do
people
know
who
he has a
support
real
Trump
problem.
as
And so the
domestic as
fact-
I
terrorists.
cannot
Could you ever
believe
think
that.
you heard any president say
I can believe it.
that I'm going to seek
Well, I
retribution?
mean, I can believe
You ever
it,
hear
but-
any presidents say that I thought Hitler had some good ideas? What got me involved to run the
There
first
he goes.
place
He
after my
just-
son
Hitler.
died, I decided in Iraq, because of Iraq, I said I wasn't going to run again until I saw what happened in Charlottesville, Virginia. People
Yes!
coming out of the
You brought
woods
it up.
carrying swastikas on torches.
This just got
torches,
snoped, buddy.
And singing the same anti-Semitic bile they sang when back in Germany.
Back in
And
my
the-
day as
and
a
the young
Nazi.
woman got killed. I spoke to the mother, and they asked him. They
Yeah.
said, "What do you think of those people? The people the ones who got killed, the one who tried to stop it, and the ones," he said, "I think they're fine people on both sides."
No, he didn't.
What American president
He's trying to
would ever
provoke 'em,
say
but it's not working.
Nazis coming out of
I know.
fields
I
carrying
love it.
torches, singing the same anti-Semitic bile, carrying swastikas?
Oh, you
We're
mean
fine
like your
people.
supporters are doing every
This is the guy who
weekend?
says Hitler's done some good things. I'd like to know what they are.
It's all these
Good
all
things
these
Hitler's done, that's what
anonymously
he said.
sourced
This guy has
stories.
no sense of American democracy.
President Trump.
Jake, both of you know that story has been totally wiped out because when you see the sentence, it said 100% exoneration on this. So he just keeps it going. He says he ran because of Charlottesville. He didn't run because of Charlottesville. He ran because it was his last chance. He's not equipped to be president. You know it, and I know it. It's ridiculous. We have a debate. We're trying to justify his presidency. His presidency, without question,
Joe Biden is funding
the worst
Nazis. The
worst presidency in the history of our country. We shouldn't be having a debate about it. There's nothing to debate. He made up the Charlottesville story, and you'll see it's debunked all over the place. Every anchor has, every reasonable anchor has debunked it. And just the other day, it came out where it was fully debunked. It's a nonsense story. He knows that, and he didn't run because of Charlottesville. He used that as an excuse to run.
That's what he said, yeah.
President Biden.
And debunked. It happened. All you have to do is listen to what was said at the time. And the idea that somehow that's the only reason I ran. I ran because I was worried a guy like this guy could get elected.
No, he literally said that's
why
he ran
coming out
in
of
2016,
that
17
forest,
after this.
carrying those woods, carrying those torches.
I covered
and
all
he didn't
this on the show
deserve to be
last
president.
night.
Didn't deserve to be president at all. And the idea that he's talking about all this being fabricated. We saw with our own eyes. We saw what happened on January 6th. We saw the people breaking
I had a friend
windows.
from
we saw
LA
people occupying
call me
his own vice president
to check in
But
with
there's a
me after
reason why
Charlottesville.
40 of his 44 top
Seriously,
cabinet
he said, I know how
officers
bad
refused
things
to
are
endorse
down
him
there. I'm
this
like,
time.
dude, do you know
His
how
vice
far away
president hasn't
Charlottesville
endorsed him
is
this
from
time.
Atlanta?
So why? Why? They know him well. They serve with him.
That's
Why
how
are
they
not
fucking
endorsing
think
him?
about the South.
Thank you, President Biden. We're going to be right back with more from the CNN presidential debate.
Oh, they're going to remove batteries, are they?
Is this going to be a commercial break for Pfizer?
I hope so.
I hope it's all
the
Joe
Pfizer-
Biden campaign ads.
But yeah, that's what I hope it is too. Thanks for watching this commercial break. I'm going to hit the mute on that.
Hey, I got to give me 1 sec. I'll be right back. I got
All right. So I was wondering on the show last night, because I went through Stella, I don't know if you saw, but Snopes, which is the most bullshit, quote, fact checker that there is, they actually, 7 years later, said that no, Trump did not say that the neo-Nazis were fine people. But they did it in a way where they're like, yeah, he didn't say it, but we all know he kind of meant it. You know, that type of way. But they still pointed out they didn't say it. And I've even heard Jake Tapper say, well, he didn't actually say this, but they try and make it seem like Trump knew that there was 0 people were there that weren't Nazis. It's just totally bogus. And I was wondering how that would come up, and they kind of raced through it. But I think it's just evidence that it doesn't matter. I just think that people who believe that will continue to believe that regardless, because the brainwashing has been so effective.
Yeah, look, sometimes I just wonder how many people actually do really believe it. Like, is it a reasonably small percentage, but just the fact that everything is kind of orchestrated, it doesn't really matter anymore. I mean, the whole voting system was bogus. They're always presenting things to be bigger than they really are. It's like, oh, there's so many people vaccinated or whatever. And, in the end, it's like, no, actually, there wasn't that many.
Yeah.
There was a lot more of us than we thought there
like
was.
FOMA propaganda. You don't everybody's doing it. It's the peer pressure type shit that they want to hope. And they've even, there's leaked audio of Fauci talking about, once people start having consequences in their lives, then they'll go get the vaccine or whatever it is he said.
They won't be able to go to gyms and schools. More pot mouths.
It's just so predictable, though, for all these characters that have, finished their script and done their bit, and they've earned their bit in the, the bunker bar. But they've just got to go through their court cases or what have you and play their parts.
Yeah.
Doesn't anybody ever sort of twig to the fact that this is a state? I mean, I'm talking about the general public. Obviously, we do. But it's beyond me that people can't see through this anymore. And I guess I'm spending too much time in this community, but that's because the other community is unbearable.
Yeah. There was a Scott Adams had a conversation with Ian. You were in a movie with this guy, Ian. What's the guy's name? He's a comedian, Ian Black or something like that. I can't remember the guy's name. I know you did a movie with him once, and he's a liberal. His name will come to me, but Scott Adams had a conversation with him the other day about this, the news is all fake type thing.
Okay.
And from what I saw, the little bit I saw of it, and listening to both of them talk about it afterwards, they both could not comprehend the other's worldview. Like they just couldn't, because there's just two separate planes of existence based on the what they have been consumed media wise. And I'm gonna actually go watch. I wasn't gonna watch it, but I want to see.
I think there is that. I think there is that. What window are you looking at the world through? Sure, I think there is some of that, but I also think people are just forgetting we have different worldviews, just different ways of. I think there's. I don't know who I could attribute this to.
Different lenses.
Yeah, just different lenses. Anyways, here we are.
Give a quick comment. Nate G says the Adderall stock is dropping in real time.
President
Biden's performance.
While black unemployment dropped to a record
really get through
low
45
under your
minutes of this
presidency,
already?
black families still earn
Holy
far
shit.
less than white families. Black mothers are still 3 times more likely to die from pregnancy-related causes, and black Americans are imprisoned at 5 times the rate of white Americans. What do you say to black voters who are disappointed that you haven't made more progress?
They acknowledge they made a lot of progress, number one. The fact of the matter is there's more small black businesses that have been started than any time in history. Number two, the wages of black unemployment is the lowest level it's been in a long, long time. Number three, we're providing housing for black Americans and dealing with the segregation that exists among these corporations that collude to keep people out of their houses. And in addition to that, we find that the impact on the choice that black families have to make relative to child care is incredibly difficult. When we did the first major piece of legislation in the past, I was able to reduce black child care costs. I cut them in half. We got to make sure we provide for child care costs. We got to make sure, because when you provide those child care protections,
Can you imagine Biden hanging out with a bunch of black guys
in the job market?
And all the just inappropriate things he would say.
Considerably more to be done.
Yeah, but they'd all
we've
have
done a great
tuxedos
deal
on.
so far, and I'm not letting up, and they know it.
You have 49 seconds left. What do you say to black
shit.
voters
That's
who are
what Jill
disappointed
always
with the
tells
progress
Joe.
so far?
I say I don't blame them for being disappointed. Inflation is
Shame it
still
wasn't
hurting them
literal.
badly. For example, I provided for the idea that any black family, first-time home buyer, should get a $10,000 tax credit to be able to buy their first home so they can get started. I made sure that we're in a situation where all those black families and those black individuals who provided had to
None of
take
the
out student
ideas,
loans.
like how that
were
black family could
ballooning,
make their own
that
money,
if they
make
were
life a little
engaged
easier
in
for them to
nursing,
keep more of their own money. Huh,
and,
Joe?
Anything
gotta-
having to do with volunteerism.
Yeah,
If
right,
They
they're-
paid their bills
they-
for 10
they-
years.
Never any ideas
and
like
their
that.
Student debt,
Just
all
how
the
do I
rest
give them a
forgiven
handout?
after 10
They
years.
use
Millions have
identity
benefited from
politics
that.
and racial
And we're
division
gonna do a whole lot more
to hold people down and
for
control
black
them.
families.
They
Thank
have
you,
An oldie
President
bit of
Trump.
goodie.
And he
Always will.
caused the inflation. He's blaming inflation, and he's right. It's been very bad. He caused the inflation, and it's killing black families and Hispanic families and just about everybody.
It's
It's
terrible.
killing
I mean, it's
people. They
awful.
can't buy groceries anymore.
Cue
They
the
can't.
Joker grin.
You look at the cost of food.
My
where
grocery
it's
bill is
doubled,
insane.
tripled,
I'm not
and
even
quadrupled.
exaggerating.
They can't live. They're not living anymore. He caused this inflation. I gave him a country with essentially no inflation. It was perfect. It was so good. All he had to do is leave it alone. He destroyed it with his Green New Scam and all this money
Executive
that's being
orders.
thrown out the window. He caused inflation. As sure as you're sitting there, the fact is that his big kill on the black people is the millions of people that he's allowed to come
think
into
Joe
the
thinks
border.
he's
They're
looking
taking
tough.
black jobs now. And it could be 18, it could be 19, and even 20 million people. They're taking black jobs and they're taking Hispanic jobs. And you haven't seen it
Call
yet.
him a racist.
But you're going
Call
to see
Joe a
something
racist.
that's going to be
Yeah.
the worst
Yeah.
in our history.
Thank you. President Biden?
There was no inflation
Yeah.
when I became president. You know why? The economy was flat on its back. 15% unemployment. He decimated the economy, absolutely decimated the economy. That's why there was no inflation at
Had
the
to
time.
practice that
There were
word.
no jobs. We We provided thousands of millions of jobs for individuals.
Like the tension
who are
in
involved
Joe's
communities, including
body
minority
and face is
communities.
so
We
Joe's
made
is
sure
wrong.
that they have health insurance.
Inflation was at
We have covered,
1.4%
the ACA has
when he
increased. I made
inherited.
sure that they're $8,000 per person in
Such
a
a
family
bad actor.
get written off for health care. But this guy wants to eliminate that. They've tried 50 times. He wants to get rid of the ACA again.
Thank
And
you,
they're
Mr.
gonna try
Biden. Don't
again
call
if they
us.
win. You find ourselves in a position where the idea that we're not doing anything,
ACA
we put more police on the street than any administration has. He wants to cut the cops. We're providing for
He wants to
equity,
cut the
equity
cops?
and making sure people have
Yeah.
a shot to make it. There's a lot going on, but in inflation, he caused it by his tremendous malfeasance in the way he handled the pandemic.
Malfeasance
Thank you.
is what he
Another
said.
persistent challenge
you.
is the
We're
climate
saving you.
crisis. 2023
Great
was
job,
the
Joe.
hottest year in recorded history, and communities across
Oh, great
the country
climate
are
change.
confronting the
Everybody's
devastating
really
effects
concerned
of
about
extreme
that.
heat.
Let's skip past
intensifying
that
wildfires,
important issue of it.
stronger
They spent
hurricanes
no
and
time on
rising sea
inflation right
levels.
there.
Former
That's
President
what really
Trump,
affects
you've
people,
vowed
and they
to
just
end
race
your
by it.
opponent's climate initiatives,
'Cause of
but
fucking
will you
climate
take
change.
any action as president to slow the climate crisis?
Well, let me just go back to
Fuck
what
you,
he said about
shovelface.
the police, how close the police are to him. Almost every police group in the nation from every state
This is
is
fact.
supporting
This is
Donald J. Trump.
Yes, this is
Almost
true.
every police group. And what he's done to the black population is horrible, including the fact that for 10 years he called them super predators. We can't, in the 1990s, we can't
Oh,
forget
look at that face.
Super predators was
I
his
don't
name.
remember that.
And he called it to them for 10, and they've taken great offense at it, and now they see it happening. But when they see what I did for criminal justice reform and for the historically black colleges and universities, where I funded them and got them all funded, and
Biden
the
is realizing
opportunity
this is the
zones
first time in
with
4
Tim,
years
as you
that
know,
anyone's
Tim
talked
Scott
to him
was
this way.
incredible. He did a great job. Great senator from South Carolina. He came to me with the idea, and it was a great idea. It's one of the most successful economic development acts ever in the country.
They just cut away when
Opportunity
Biden was
zones.
picking his nose
And
there.
the biggest beneficiary are blacks, and that's why we have the best numbers with them in maybe ever. They're saying ever. I read this
Just
morning
the
where
way
ever,
that
the best numbers.
this conversation
He's
is
lost
framed to talk about
much
black
of the black
people is like in and of
population
itself.
because he's
This
done
is
a
a-
horrible job for
Trump has
black
taken
people.
25%
He's also
of the
done a
black
horrible
vote
job
away from,
for Hispanics.
Biden.
But wait till you see these
Identity
millions of people
politics is just
pouring
so
into our country, and they're going to
toxic
take the jobs. And it's
know.
already started.
And that got-
you
yeah.
haven't seen anything yet. It's a disaster.
You've 38 seconds left. President Trump, will you take any action as president to slow the climate crisis?
So I want absolutely immaculate clean water, and I want absolutely
best
clean
water,
air. And we had
crystal
it.
clean
We
water.
had H2O. We had the best numbers ever.
We
And
had
did-
H2O. I don't even
we
know
were
what you have
using
now.
All forms of energy, all forms, everything. And yet, during my 4 years, I had the best environmental
I
numbers
think he was talking about
ever.
Lindsey Graham,
And my
Denver.
top
He probably
environmental
smart to
people
not say
gave me
his
that
name.
statistic just before I walked on the stage, actually.
I don't know where the hell he's been. The idea that anything he said is true. I've passed the most extensive.
He has been trained to
most
just say
extensive
everything's a
climate
lie.
change
I think it's just
legislation
coming
in
through
history.
live in his
In
ears.
history. We
He
find
wouldn't remember
ourselves,
any
by
of
the
this.
way,
That's true.
black colleges. I came up with $15 billion for HBCUs, historic black universities and colleges, because they don't have those.
They
don't have
protested
the kind of
him speaking
contributors
at
that they have.
Morehouse in Atlanta. They didn't want
Build
him
these
speaking.
laboratories and the like. Any black student is capable in college of doing any white student can do. They just have the money. But now they'll be able to get those jobs in high tech. We're in a situation where the idea that he is claiming to have done something that had the cleanest water, he hadn't done a damn thing for the environment. He pulled out of the Paris Peace Accord,
Is that a pun?
Climate Accord. I immediately joined it.
like, I tried all the
Because if
water.
we reach
Done a damn
1.5
thing
degrees
about the water.
Celsius at any one point where there's no way back. The only existential threat to humanity is climate change. And he didn't do a
God,
damn
just
thing about
shut
it.
up.
He wants to undo all that I've done.
It's so insulting. They spent so little
Paris
time
Accord
on
was going to cost
inflation,
us $1 trillion.
and now we're talking about this bullshit.
And China nothing,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
Russia nothing, and India nothing. It was a
Close your
ripoff of the
bloody
United
mouth,
States.
Joe.
And I ended it because I
People-
didn't want to waste that money
What
because
people
they
that care
treated us
about
horribly.
this
We were the only
are
ones
the
who was costing
children
us money.
of
Nobody else
white,
was paying
rich
into
liberal
it.
people
And
who
it
have
was a-
nothing
it
better to
was a
do but become
disaster.
climate protesters.
But everything that he said just
And,
now,
you know,
I'll give you an
duct tape
example.
their
I heard him
dicks
say
to,
before
like,
insulin. I'm the one that got
some
the insulin
famous
down for
painting in
the
a
seniors.
museum.
I took care of the seniors. What he's doing is destroying all of our medical programs because the migrants coming in, they want everybody. And look, I have the biggest heart on the stage. I guarantee you that. And I want to take care of people.
Biggest heart
But
on?
we're
Well,
destroying
whip it
our
out,
country.
sir.
They're taking
Prove
over
it.
our schools, our hospitals, and they're going to be taking over Social Security. He is destroying Social
His
Security,
mouth breathing
Medicare,
again.
and
Yeah, says
Medicaid.
it. Michael.
The idea
Yeah, he's
is
trying.
that we, in fact, we were the only ones of consequence. We're not members of the Paris Accord. How can we do
Maybe
anything?
they're trying to
we're not able
sabotage
The
Biden
United
here.
States can't get its
Oh,
control.
gosh,
One of the largest polluters in the
I
world.
wonder how they'll
Number
report
one.
on this.
We're
I don't
making
know how
significant
you can
progress.
report
They're
on
gonna say
By
he
Biden.
won.
2035, we will have
It's hard to say that, even with how much they spend.
Progress.
This is so bad.
And we're continuing
gonna
to make
say he
progress.
won.
We set up a climate corps.
His
where
chin looks
thousands of
weird.
young people will learn how
His
to
what,
deal
Stella?
with climate, just like
chin.
the Peace Corps.
Oh,
And
yes,
we're gonna-
yes. Yeah, okay,
we're
he's got a
moving
butt
in
chin.
directions that are going to
like his
significantly
mask a bit
change
loose there.
the elements of
He looks
cause
in the
of
mirror. He
pollution.
wants to fuck his own
But the
chin.
idea that he claims that he has the biggest heart up here and he's really concerned about pollution and about climate, I've not seen any indication of that. And by the way, with regard to prescription drugs, one company agreed that they would reduce the price to $35, which I was calling for, one, voluntarily. I made sure every company in the world, every pharmaceutical company, cannot have to pay.
Thank you.
And by the way,
Yeah, shut up.
So every day, millions of Americans struggle just to make ends meet.
the way,
For
I
many
forgot.
older Americans, Social Security provides a critical lifeline. President Biden, if nothing is done to Social Security, seniors will see their benefits cut in just over 10 years. Will you name tonight one specific step that you're willing to take to keep Social Security solvent?
yes, make the very wealthy begin to pay their fair share.
Oh, great job,
Right
Bernie
now,
Sanders, Biden.
Everybody
Yeah.
making under $170,000 pays 6% of
Fucking
their income,
dipshit.
of their paycheck, every single time they get a paycheck.
just
from
says
the
the
time
same
first one they get
stupid
when
shit.
they're 18 years old.
Yeah.
The idea that they're going to, I'm proposing that everybody, they pay.
Nate says
millionaires
Hildog's
pay
cracking her
1%.
knuckles, maybe
1%.
ready to
Yeah,
suck in.
ready to
After-
jump on
Tap
it.
her
they're
in.
not raising
Hey,
the
dude, let's
cost
do
of Social
Hillary
Security
Trump
for
again.
anybody.
Let's
I would
do
love to
it.
bring Hillary back
$1,000
in.
after
Oh,
that,
let's
begin
make
to
her
the
lose
wealthy
again.
Begin to pay their fair share by increasing from 1% beyond to be able to guarantee the program for life.
So you still have 82 seconds
Nobody
left. Are
likes
there
the
any other
Democrats
measures
right
that you
now.
think that
We
would be
still
able
have
to
82
help
seconds
keep
left,
Social
says
Security
Jill
solvent,
to
or
Joe.
is that one enough?
Well, no, that one enough will keep it solvent. But the biggest thing I'll do if we defeat this man, because he wants to get rid of Social Security. He thinks there's plenty to cut in Social Security. He's wanting to cut Social Security and Medicare both times. And that's what. And if you look at the program put forward by the House Republican caucus that I believe supports, is in fact want to cut it as well. The idea that we don't need to protect our seniors is ridiculous. And by the way,
That was Trump's
American
position.
public has greater
That's
health care
not-
coverage today than ever before. And on the ACA, as I said, you're in a circumstance where 400,000 people, 40 million people would not have insurance because they have a pre-existing condition. Only thing that allows them to have that insurance is the fact that they, in fact, are part of the ACA. And by the way, the other thing is we're in a situation where I talk about education for black communities. I've raised the amount of money for Pell Grants by another $8,000. So anybody making under $70,000 a year are going to be able to get $15,000 toward their tuition. He just doesn't know what he's talking about.
Thank you, President Biden. President Trump.
So I've dealt with
That's gonna be a good grab.
politicians all my life. I've been on this side of the equation for the last 8 years. I've never seen anybody lie like this guy. He lies. I've never seen it. He can look you in the face. About so many other things too. And we mentioned the laptop. We mentioned Russia, Ukraine.
Which Jake
Everything
Tapper
he
won an
does is a
award
lie. It's
for his
misinformation and
reporting on the Russia
disinformation. The losers
really?
and suckers story that he
He's
made up is a
credited with
total
putting
lie
the
on the
term,
military.
the
It's a
dossier
disgrace.
into our
But
political
Social
lexicon,
Security,
officially credited with that.
He's destroying
The
it
moderator
because
uses.
millions of people are
crap.
pouring into our country, and they're putting them onto Social Security. They're putting them onto Medicare, Medicaid. They're putting them in our hospitals. They're taking the place of our citizens. What they're doing to the VA, to our veterans, is unbelievable. Our veterans are living in the street, and these people are living in luxury hotels. He doesn't know what he's doing. And It's really
You know, I
coming
liked
back.
it better.
I've never
Remember
seen
last
such
time
anger
it
in our
devolved
country
so
before.
badly they just did separate
President Biden?
town halls.
The idea
what-
of
yeah.
veterans
That's
are
what they
not
should
being
do.
taken care of.
I don't need
told
to
you
see these two
before.
in the same
By
fucking
way,
room.
when I
Just
said
separate
suck the
town
roses,
halls.
He said he acknowledged
At
after
least
that he
don't make it
fired
so
that
it's
general.
so controlled here.
That general got
Yeah.
fired because he's the one that acknowledged that that's what he said. He was the one standing with Trump when he said it. Number one. Number two,
What?
the idea that we're going to be in a situation where
Can you imagine going
all
against a
these
guy like this where
millions and
you can
millions
just see
of
that
people he
he's
talks
just
about
not there?
illegal aliens are
It's
coming
almost
into the
like I
country
feel like
and taking away our
Trump's
jobs.
expression is
There's
just
a reason
like,
why we have the fastest
I-
growing economy in the world.
it'll be elder
The reason why
abuse
we have
if
the
I
most
show any
successful
bit of
economy in the
temperament
world.
at all.
We're
you
doing
know?
better than any other nation in the world. And by the way, those 15 Nobel laureates he talked about being phony,
Prove it.
those 15 Nobel laureates, economists, they all said that if Trump is reelected, we're likely to have a recession and inflation.
Oh, the one that you said we never had?
And by the way,
Wait,
we're
I guess
Nobel
Democratic-
laureates are stupid.
159 presidential scholars voted him the worst president in the history of the United
Yeah,
States.
you're right, Ian. He doesn't even
President
look
Biden,
at
thank you
him.
so much. Let's turn
Yeah.
to the cost of
He just won't even look
childcare,
at
which
him.
many American
It's
families
great. It's very
struggle to
smart.
afford. President Trump, both you and President Biden have tried to address this issue, but the average cost of childcare in this country has risen to more than $11,000 a year per child. For many families, the cost of childcare for 2 children is more than their
Joe
rent.
Biden's been advocating
In your
cutting
second term,
Social
what
Security
would
for
you
40
do
years,
to make
says
childcare
Denver.
more affordable?
Just to go back, the general got fired because he was no good. And if he said that, that's why he made it up. But we have 19 people that said I didn't say it, and they're very highly respected, much more so than him. The other thing is, he doesn't fire people. He never fired people. I've never seen him fire anybody. I did fire a lot. I fired Comey because he was no good. I fired a lot of the
Comey's
top
awful.
people at the FBI, drained the swamp. They
You're
were no
fired.
Good. Not easy to fire people. You'd pay a price for it, but they were no good. I inherited these people. I didn't put them there. I didn't put Comey there. He
I
was
had a
no
show
good.
about it.
I fired him.
Exactly.
This guy hasn't fired
That's
anybody.
right.
He never fires. He should have fired
Yeah, he can't-
every military
Biden
man
can't
that was
fire his
involved with that
bosses.
Afghan,
He'd
the
laugh at him.
Afghanistan
Yeah.
horror
Yeah,
show.
yeah, sure,
The
I'm
most
fired,
embarrassing
okay. You
moment
think you're
in the
the
history of
boss,
our
sure.
country.
Yeah.
He didn't fire. Did you fire anybody? Did you fire anybody that's on the border that's allowed us to have the worst border in the history of the world?
I
Did
know
anybody get
it doesn't
fired
look
for
like he's
allowing
gonna do
18
it,
million
but
people,
I want
many
him to
from
get a little
prisons,
petty, you know, because
many
tell him
somebody
Jim's
wind him
not
up.
a real
mental
doctor.
institutions? Did you fire anybody that allowed our country to be destroyed? Joe, our country is being destroyed as you and I sit up here and waste a lot of time on this debate. This shouldn't be a debate. He is the worst president. He just said about me because I said it. But look, he's the worst president in the history of our country. He's destroyed our country. Now all of a sudden he's trying to get a little tough on the border. He came out with a nothing
That's
deal.
true.
And
It
it
is.
He
reduced it a
does
little
is
bit,
become
a
more
little
like
bit,
Trump
like
on the
this
border.
much. It's insignificant. He wants open borders. He wants our country to either be
And he'll
destroyed
reverse it
or
if he
wants to
gets
pick up
reelected
those
right
people
away.
as voters.
Derek says
And
that
I don't
Trump
think
should say,
we
Joe,
just
Joe,
can't let
you're
it happen.
fired.
If he
Yeah, he
wins this
should.
election,
Oh
our
my
country
God.
doesn't have a chance, not
Yeah,
even
wouldn't
a
that be great?
chance
Biden is just
of
terrible.
coming out of this rut. We probably won't have a country left anymore. That's how bad it is.
And this is
He's
who they
the worst
wanted
in history
The
by
Democrats
far.
wanted this
Thank you, President
matchup.
Trump. President Biden?
We're the most admired country in the world.
No, we're
We're
not
the
anymore.
United States of America.
Stella, is that
There's
true?
nothing beyond our
Yeah,
capacity.
Stella,
Absolutely
We're the
not.
finest military in the history of the world.
Yeah,
The
I've
finest
traveled
in the history
outside of the
world.
country. We're not the
one
most
thinks we're weak.
admired country
No
in the
one
world.
wants to screw around with us. Nobody. Number one. Number two,
we
the
don't count.
idea that we're talking
and
about
all my
worst presidents.
lovely
I wasn't
ex-Americans
joking. Look it
love
up or
telling
go
me over
online.
beer and other
159
drinks.
or 58, don't hold me the exact number.
You know,
presidential historians.
they're like, all the
they've
women
had
over here are
meetings
so
and
much
they voted
nicer, whatever
who's
country
the
they're
worst
in.
president in American history.
Well,
One
they're
from
just
best to
confused.
worst.
They're like,
They
so
said he
how
was
do
the
you
worst
live
in
like
all
that?
Of American history. That's a fact. That's not conjecture.
Well, he's
You can
fiddling a
argue
bit, I
they're
think.
wrong, but that's what they voted. The idea
don't have
that
an
he
army
is
of
knowing,
feminists over here
doing
in our
anything to
country,
deal
they
with
tell us.
child care, he did for virtually nothing to child care. We should significantly increase the child care tax credit. We should significantly increase the availability of women and men or single parents to be
he's
able to
just-
go back to work.
his
and we
whole
should
struggle
encourage
here
businesses to
was to
have
recall
Thank you,
the
President
script
Biden.
that he
President
tried
Trump,
very
the
hard to
question was
remember, which
about
is these
what would you
surface
do
level
to make
talking
childcare more
points,
affordable
like
if you wanna
CNN
take a minute?
headlines.
Just so you understand,
That he's just struggling. He's not
we
actually
have polling,
responding.
we
to
have
things.
other things that they rate him the worst because what he's done is so bad. And they rate me, I'll show you, I will show you. And they rate me one of the best, okay? And if I'm given another 4 years, I will be the best. I think I'll be the best. Nobody's ever created an economy like us. Nobody ever cut taxes like us. He's the only one I know. He wants to raise your taxes by 4 times.
stay away
He
from
wants to
children
raise
for sure,
everybody's
Jack.
I cannot
taxes
afford
by 4
another
times.
4
He wants the
years.
Trump tax cuts to expire. So everybody, including the two of you, are going to pay 4 to 5 times. Nobody ever heard of this before. All my life, I'd grow up and I'd see politicians talking about cutting taxes. When we cut taxes, as I said, we did more business. Apple and all these companies, they were bringing money back into our country. The worst president in
Quick
history
nap
by
from
far,
Joe
and
again?
everybody knows it.
What's up, Jack?
President Biden?
Look, the fact of the matter is
Like
that
that.
he's dead wrong about, he's increased the tariff, he will increase the taxes on
You
middle
think they're in
class
different
people.
rooms, Jack?
I said I'd never raise the tax on anybody
Sounds-
who makes
seems like it.
less than $400,000. I didn't. But this tariff is 10% tariffs. Everything coming into the country, you know what the economists say? That's going to cost the average American $2,500 a year
Yeah, and he's going to
more
offset our income
because they're gonna have
taxes.
to pay the
That's the
difference
idea.
in food and all the things that we're
I
importing.
think a question
Number
people
two,
should ask, if
he's in a
Joe was your
situation
father,
where
would
he
you
talks
consider
about how he
getting
has
him round the
not
clock home
raised-
health care or maybe
he's-
an
he's
assisted
somehow
living
helped
community?
the middle class.
I think
And
the answer is
again,
Middle
yes.
class have been devastated. by
You're an
it.
orphan, and it's
Now you
Christmas
want a new
morning.
tax cut of $5
Which house do you
trillion
wanna
over
wake
the
up
next
in?
10 years, which is going to fundamentally
great
bankrupt
question.
the country. You had the largest deficit of any president in American history, number one. Number two, you have not, in fact, made any contact, any
never looks at him.
progress
It's so
with
funny.
China. We are the lowest trade deficit with China since 2010.
Thank you,
were at the
President
highest.
Biden.
You lost
Thank you,
hundreds of
President Biden.
thousands.
Let's discuss an
shove
epidemic
your dick in his
impacting
mouth,
millions
Jake.
of Americans that both of you have made a top priority in your first
With your
term,
fucking
the
handkerchief.
opioid crisis. And for both of you, the number of overdose deaths in this country has gone up. Under your term, it went up. Under your term, it has
Jake
gone
Tapper's
up.
an asshole,
Former
people
President
should know.
Trump,
He's like-
despite
he's a
the efforts
real
that both
deep
of you
state
have made,
asshole. Like-
more than 100,000 Americans are dying from overdoses every year, primarily from fentanyl and other opioids. What will
Well,
you
with
do to help
mentors like
Americans
Hunter
right
Biden.
now in the throes of addiction who are struggling to get the treatment they
Oh,
need?
what a softball question
finish
here
up,
to get over to Joe.
We now have the largest deficit in the history of our country under this guy. We have the largest deficit with China. He gets paid by China. He's a Manchurian candidate. He gets money from China. So I think he's afraid to deal with them or something. But do you notice he never took out my
Thank you so
tariffs
much,
because we bring in so much
Bianca. That's
money
very
with
kind.
the tariffs that I imposed on China. He never took them away. He can't because it's too much money. It's tremendous. And we saved our steel industries, and there was more to come, but he hasn't done that. But he hasn't cut the tariffs because he can't, because it's too much money. But he's got the largest deficit in the history of our country, and he's got the worst situation with China. China's going to own us if you keep allowing them to do what they're doing to us as a country. They are killing
gonna
us
hawk
as a
too, there
country,
he
Joe,
goes.
and you can't let that happen. You're
Yeah,
destroying
look at
our
Australia.
country.
So, President Trump, you have 67 seconds left. The question was,
67
what are you going to do to
seconds.
help Americans in the throes of addiction right now who are struggling to get the treatment they need?
Jake, we were doing very well at addiction until the COVID came along. We had the 2.5, almost 3 years of like nobody's ever had before, any country, in every way.
It was
And then we had to get tough, and it was the drugs pouring across the border were. It started to increase. We got great equipment. We bought the certain dog that's the most incredible thing that you've ever seen. The way they can spot it.
The
we
dog?
did a lot, and we were getting very low.
Yeah, I'd
numbers.
like to
roll
know
with
more
it. He's
about
like a
that.
Very low
jazz
numbers.
musician.
Then he came along.
Yeah, you're right.
The
He
numbers,
improvises
have
a
you
lot.
seen the numbers now? It's not only the 18 million people that I believe is even low because the gotaways, they don't even talk about gotaways. But the numbers,
The gotaways.
the amount of drugs
gotaways.
That would
and
be a
human
great
trafficking
name for a
in
Mexican
women
restaurant.
coming across our border. The worst
Mexican
thing I've
band.
ever seen.
Authentic
And
Mexican
numbers
restaurant.
that nobody's ever seen under him
El
because the border's
Gatoways.
so bad. But the number of drugs coming across our border now is the largest we've ever had by far.
President Trump, thank you.
Jim's
President
like, have you
Biden?
seen Hunter's?
Fentanyl and
Yeah, I'm all
byproducts
for
fentanyl went
Mexicans
down
coming into this
for a
country.
while.
I could eat
And
Mexican
I
food
wanted to make
every
sure we
day
use
of the
machinery
week.
that can detect fentanyl. These big machines that roll over everything that comes across the border.
Oh, they're better than the
And it costs
dog,
a
these
lot of
machines
money.
are?
That was part of
A
this deal we
certain
put
dog?
together, this bipartisan deal. More fentanyl machines.
Oh, the robot.
More fentanyl
you know, detect
machines.
drugs,
Yeah.
more-
Put your
more
dollar
numbers
in,
of-
and you get fentanyl
agents,
out.
More numbers
I
of
promise you, more
all
fentanyl
people
machines
border.
was not
And
scripted.
when we had that deal done, he called his Republican colleagues, said, "Don't do it. It's going to hurt me politically." No, he never argued it's not a good bill. It's a really
Absolutely,
good bill.
Jack.
We need those machines. We need those machines. And we're coming down very hard in every
Need those
country
fentanyl
in Asia
machines.
in terms of precursors for fentanyl. And Mexico
I'm
is
just
working
imagining
with us
the
to make
Boston
sure they don't have
Dynamics
the technology
robots.
to be able to put
Yeah.
it together.
Yep.
That's what we have to do. We need those machines.
Thank you, President
Dreams,
Biden.
dreams,
President
dreams.
Trump, and
People,
again,
the
the question
machines
is
are.
about Americans in the throes of addiction right now, struggling to get the treatment they
He
need.
keeps going. It's the
Well,
third
this-
time
'cause
he's
this
come back
does
to this.
pertain to
Because
it.
it's a setup for
He
the
ended
Hunter
remain
shit.
in Mexico. He ended catch and release. I made it catch and release in Mexico. not
He's
catch
trying to
and
get him
release
to take a
here.
jab at Hunter again.
We had so many things that we had done, hard negotiations with Mexico, and I got it all for nothing. It's just like when you have a hostage. We always pay $6 billion for a hostage. Every time we say it's a hostage. Now we have a hostage, a Wall Street Journal reporter. I think a good guy. And he's over there because Putin is laughing at this guy, probably asking for billions of dollars for the
I
reporter.
mean, yeah, you're
I
another
will
world
have him
leader,
out
though, and you see Joe
very
Biden.
quickly.
If this is how he
as
actually
soon as
behaves,
I take office,
I think you
before
probably
I
do
take
got to feel you
office, I
have an
said,
advantage.
by literally, as soon as I win the election, I will have that reporter out. He should have had him out a long time ago, but Putin's probably asking for billions and billions of dollars because this guy pays it every time. We had 2 cases where we paid $6 billion for 5 people.
Why is he faced the
I
other
got
way?
58 people out, and I paid essentially nothing.
Thank you, President Trump. Dana?
Let's turn to concerns that voters have about each of you. President Biden, you would be 86 at the end of your second term.
No, he won't.
How do you
He
address
won't be
concerns
alive. He'll be
about
dead
your
at
capability
the end
to
of his
handle
second
the
term.
toughest job
He's
in the
not
world
already.
well
Shouldn't
into your
have
80s?
Well, first of all, I spent half my career being criticized being the youngest person.
Oh, yeah,
in
that's
politics.
really a
I was
good
the
answer.
second youngest person
That makes a lot of
ever
sense.
elected
Maybe
to
they're
the
gonna
United
replace
States
him
Senate,
after this.
And now I'm the oldest. This guy's 3 years younger and a lot less competent. I think
look
that
at
this
the
is
energy
the record.
difference.
Look at what I've done. Look, I've turned
How-
around the
how can
horrible
you say
situation
that?
left me. As I said, 15 million new jobs, 800,000
That's ultimate
manufacturing jobs,
gaslighting
more
right there.
investment
Yeah.
in America. Over billions of dollars.
That's
in
what he's
private
done all the
investment
time, is just
in-
accusing what he
in-
does.
in
I mean,
enterprises
even
that
if
we
you
are
hate
growing.
Trump, you can't
By the
agree
way,
with
we
what
brought
he
off
just
a lot of
said.
people.
Right.
Well, the whole idea of computer chips. We used to have 40% of the market.
What about
We
chocolate
invented
chips?
those
What about
chips.
potato chips?
And we lost
This is-
it.
yeah,
because he
86,
was sending
like- What about
people
banana chips?
To find the cheapest jobs
'Cause Jimmy
overseas.
Carter, who's like
and to bring home a
100, I
product.
think, can
So I went-
actually
so
run
I
for
went
another
to
term.
South
We could have
Korea.
3 former
I convinced
presidents
Samsung
today.
to invest billions of dollars here in the United States. And they're, guess what? Those fabs they call
Chicken
them,
butt.
that to build
See
these
Sugar
chips,
butt?
those fabs pay over $100,000. You don't need a college degree for them. And there's billions, about $40 billion already being invested and being built right now
Billion-
in the
billions
United
of dollars,
States,
says
creating
Denver.
significant jobs for Americans from all over the world.
Gosh.
President Biden, you have 40 seconds left. Would you like to add anything?
Yeah, I would. The idea that somehow we are this failing country. I never heard a president talk like this before. We're the envy of the world. Like, name me a single
not.
major country president who wouldn't trade places with the United States of America.
None of them are willing
all
to
our
admit it.
problems and all our opportunities. We're the most progressive country in the world in getting things done.
So that
We're the
being
strongest
the
country
envy
in
and the
world.
most progressive
We're a
are
country
not
in the world who keeps our
compatible.
word,
I don't-
and everybody
President
trusts
Parkinson.
us. All of our allies and our
We have the
and
most
our-
trans in the
those who he
world.
coddles
Yeah.
up to, from Kim Jong Un, he sends love letters to, and
Good
Putin,
point.
etc. They don't
Sends
want to
love
screw
letters
around with
to?
us.
Thank you.
like,
Former President
yeah,
Trump, to
right.
follow up, you would be 82 at the end of your second term.
And
What
you
do
would be
say to voters
56,
who have
Dana. You're getting
concerns
past
about
your prime.
capabilities to serve?
Well, I
You
took 2
shovel-faced
tests, cognitive
bitch.
tests. I aced
Face
them.
will be a little
Both
longer.
of them, as you know. We made it
Yeah,
public.
right.
He took none.
You're
I'd
down
like to
to
see
your
him take
coochie
one,
at
just
that
one,
point.
a real easy one. Like go through the first 5 questions. He couldn't do it. But I took 2 cognitive tests. I took physical exams every year.
They should
And,
have
you
him
know,
arm wrestle.
We knock on wood
Yeah.
wherever we may have wood.
Yeah.
That I'm in very good health.
I've always
I just
got wood
won 2
whenever
club
I want it.
championships, not even senior. 2 regular club championships. To do that, you have to be
No, they
quite
should do like a
smart, and you have to
physical-
be able to hit the ball
like
a long
a
way.
remember the
And
show
I do it.
Gladiators?
He doesn't do it. He can't hit a ball 50 yards. He challenged me to a golf match.
This is great.
He
They
can't
need
hit
to
ball
do a
50
physical,
yards.
like golf,
I
basket,
think
like
I'm in
whatever,
very good shape.
wrestling.
I feel that I'm as in good a shape as I was 25, 30 years ago. Actually, I'm probably a little bit lighter, but I'm in as good a shape as I was years ago. I feel very good. I feel the same.
He does
But I
have a lot
I
of
was
energy
willing to
for a
take
man
He does
the
look a
his
little
test.
lighter.
And you know what? If I didn't
I
do
don't know
well,
that I
Looks like
agree
he's
with the
probably
25
dropped-
years thing.
Dr.
but
Ronnie
Yeah.
Jackson, who's a great guy when he was White House doctor, and then I took another one, a similar one, and both.
And I got
one of them
wood
said they'd
instantly.
never seen
Instantly
anybody
got
else.
wood.
Thank you. President Biden?
You want me to get hard right
You can
now,
see
Dana,
he
even
is
with your
6
shovel
foot
face?
5 and only 223 pounds, or 235
21?
pounds.
600,
Well, you said
220,
6'4",
35
200.
pounds. Is that what he just said?
Well, anyway, that's it. Anyway, just take a look at what he says he is, and take a look at what he is. Look, I'd be happy to have a driving contest with him.
Let's do
I
it,
mean, I got my
please.
handicap.
Please,
which
please,
when I
please,
was
please, do it.
yeah.
Do it.
That would
down
be
to a
so
6.
much more entertaining.
And but by the way, I told you before, I'm happy to play golf. You can carry your own bag. Think you can do it?
That's the biggest lie. He's a 6 handicap of all.
I was at 8 handicap. 8.
They're arguing about golf.
But I mean,
I've seen you swing. I know you swing.
Okay, let's
not act like children.
President Trump, we're going to
21
turn
Let's not act like children.
You
to
are
a
a child.
specific concern that voters have
man.
about
You are.
Golf
Will you pledge
contest to be
tonight that
gold.
once all legal challenges have been exhausted, that you will accept the results of this election, regardless of who wins, and
this
you will
again.
say right now that political violence in any form is unacceptable?
You're the cheapest
Well, I
shovel at
shouldn't
Home
have to
Depot,
say that,
Dana.
but of
Will you
course I
accept
believe
that?
that. It's totally unacceptable. And if you would see my statements that I made on Twitter at the time, and also my statement that I made in the Rose Garden, you would say it's one of the strongest statements you've ever seen. In addition to the speech I made in front of, I believe, the largest crowd I've ever spoken to. And I will tell you, nobody ever talks about that. They talk about a relatively small number of people that went to the Capitol.
That's the face over
and
there
in
with
many
Biden that
cases
really
were
is gonna
ushered
stare
in by the
Putin
police.
down.
And as Nancy Pelosi said,
I like how
it was her
Biden is trying to
responsibility, not mine.
do
She
his
said
best
that
Jack
loud and clear.
Palance this entire
But the
time,
answer
you know?
is, if the
It almost
election
does
is
feel
fair,
like it's on
free, and I
purpose,
want
but he
that
just
more
yeah,
than
he's
anybody.
such a
And
fucking
I'll tell you
dipshit.
something. I wish he was a great president because I wouldn't be here right now. I'd be at one of my many places
pussy sniffer
enjoying
versus the
myself.
pussy
I wouldn't be
snatcher,
under
says
indictment because I
Henry.
wouldn't have been his political opponent because he indicted me because I was his opponent. I wish he was a great president. I would rather have
You
that.
just go on to
I wouldn't be
1.25
here.
speed then?
I don't mind being here. The only reason I'm here is he's so bad as a president that I'm going to make America great again. We're going to
Again?
make America great again. We're a failing
MAGA.
nation right now. We're a seriously
Wouldn't be
failing
hard.
nation. And we're a failing nation
And I'll
because of
have
him.
wood the whole
His
time if
policies
America
are
wants
so
it.
bad.
Yeah.
His military policies are insane. They're insane. These are wars that will never end with him. He will drive us into World War III, and we're closer to World War III than anybody can imagine.
That's true.
We
are
are
right
very,
now.
very close to World War III, and he's driving us there. And Kim Jong-un and President Xi of China, Kim Jong-un of North Korea, all of these, Putin, they don't respect him. They don't fear him. They have nothing going with this gentleman, and he's going to drive us into World
Yeah,
War
Biden is
III.
not somebody to be afraid of.
You want a World War III, let him follow and win, and let Putin say, do what you want, NATO.
This,
Just
this
do what
you
you
got to
want.
be so dumb.
There's a thing called Article 5.
To fall into this
attack on
bull-
one
it's
is
Putin,
attack on
Trump
all,
Putin.
and required response.
Yeah.
The idea, I can't think of a single major leader in the world who wouldn't trade places with the job I've done and what they've done. Because we are a powerful nation. We have
really?
wonderful people. It's because of the
Probably
people.
can't think of any
not me,
leaders.
It's because of the American people.
Our
They're
trans
capable of
population
anything, and
has
they step up
increased
when they're needed.
10,000%
And right now,
during
we're
my
needed.
presidency.
And we're
needed to
trying to
protect
make
the world
more
because of our own
as fast
safety
as
at
we
stake.
can. We're cutting off
And
little
again,
kids'
you seen
dicks.
the
we
and
wanna
trans
have
shit.
a war.
dominating in
Just let
athletics
Putin
since
go
I've been
ahead and
president?
Take Kyiv, make sure they move on, see what happens in Poland, Hungary, and other places along that border. Then you have a war.
President
Fentanyl
Trump, as I come back
machines.
to you for a follow-up, the question was, will you accept the results of this election?
Your face still looks
regardless
like
of
a
who
shovel,
wins?
Dana.
Just to finish what he said, if I might, Russia, they took a lot of land from Bush. They took a lot of land from Obama and Biden. They took no land, nothing from Trump, nothing. He knew
He
not
just
to
won
do
that
it.
argument.
He's not going to play games with me. He knew that. I got along with him very well, but he knew not to play
The
games.
golf thing was
he
very
took nothing
funny,
from
Eric,
me.
for sure.
But now he's going to take the whole thing from this man right here. That's a war that should have never started. It would have never started ever with me. And he's going to take Ukraine. And, you know, you asked me a question before, would you do this? He's got us in such a bad position
Biden
right
has
now
to be
with-
so
with
controlled. Like,
Ukraine
why
and
would you
Russia.
even have somebody like that out
Because
there?
Ukraine's not winning that war. He said, I will never settle until such time. They're running out of people. They're running out of
just don't
soldiers.
think they
They've
could
lost
even
so many
expected
people.
him to
It's
do
so
well.
sad. They've lost so
They had
many
to have
people, and
expected
they've
this.
lost those gorgeous cities with the golden domes that are 1,000 years old, all because of him and stupid decisions. Russia would have never attacked
if I were
President Trump,
president.
the question was, will you accept the results of the election, regardless
dude.
of who wins? Yes or
I'll
no,
accept
please.
the results that
If
you're
it's a
chief
fair
shovel, Dana, and I
legal
can't dig a
and
deep
good
hole with you.
election,
Maybe the Mexicans can
absolutely.
get across the
I
border
would
with
have
you. I
much
don't know.
rather accepted these, but the fraud and everything else was ridiculous. And if you want, we'll have a news conference on it in a week, or we'll have another one of these in a week. But I will absolutely. There's nothing I'd rather do. It would be much easier
They
for me
told
to
us
do
that. Biden was at Camp
then
David
I'm
for
running
weeks,
again.
like locked
I wasn't
down,
really
preparing for
going to
this.
run
Probably
until I saw
sick
the
if you
horrible
listen to
job
his
he
voice.
did. He's destroying our
Yeah.
country. I would be very happy to be someplace else in a nice location someplace. And again, no indictments, no political opponent stuff, because it's the only way he thinks he can win. But unfortunately, it's driven up my numbers and driven them up to a very high
Maybe
level
what I
because the
think
people understand it.
Denver was saying earlier
Let's see what
is
your numbers are. when
it's
this
a matter
election is
of
over.
seeing how much
Let's
people
see.
will accept.
You're a whiner.
Like if you still
And you
are
lost the
saying
first
Biden's
time.
okay
You
after
you
this, then
continued, you
you're
appealed and
completely
appealed to
captured.
courts all
Did you
across
hear
the
what he
country.
just said, Brett?
Not one
What'd he say?
single court in
Biden
America
just said that.
said any of your claims
let's
had
check your
any
poll numbers
merit,
after this debate
state
is
or
over.
local.
Oh my
None.
God.
But you continue to provoke this lie.
This is like,
about
you ever
somehow
get in a
there's all
fight at
this
school and like you've
misrepresentation,
obviously
all this
whipped the kid's
stealing.
ass,
There's no
but he
evidence of that at
still
all.
wants to keep
And
fighting.
I tell you what, I
It's
doubt
like,
whether
yeah.
you'll accept
Yeah.
it. because you're such a
Gaslighting.
whiner.
And you're like, come
The
on,
idea
stop
if you
it.
lose again,
Like-
you accepting anything, you can't stand the loss. Something snapped in you when you lost the last time.
I mean, it could really be a,
We'll be right back
test, which I think
More
Denver,
from the CNN
I think it was Denver
presidential
that
debate,
referenced
live
earlier
from Georgia.
of if we put this person out here who's just so completely out of it, but we can still tell them that he's okay and should be chosen, then this is a portion of the country who believes that we can get to do absolutely anything we want them to do.
I think that's the only way that this insanity can be justified. It's just a social
It's a
thermometer.
little crazy, actually. You know?
Yeah, but I mean, like, I just want to shout out to the casting director of this whole circus. It's brilliant.
Oh my
Brilliant.
goodness, this is such good TV.
It's
This is the best show I've watched in a long time.
Ian,
It's
do you think that your progressive
thrills.
friends that you talk to, do you think that they're going to say that Biden won this debate?
Well, I'm also keep my eye on a few chats here. It's funny. I don't think it's my progressive friends that are big Biden fans. They're definitely not Trump fans. They're the ones, but yeah, no. I think there's some hardcore old school liberals that will not see that all they're going to see is that they both did bad. It's like, no, really, only one of them is doing terribly right now.
Yeah. Do you think they'll replace them? Is this conditioning for acceptance of just anything, or are they going to replace him after this?
I think they're probably going to try to replace him, but too little, too late.
I say bring back
Kamala
Hillary.
Harris would be. Please bring back Hillary.
That would be so much more fun
Please
to bring back.
Hillary.
I'm back!
And Hillary can speak. She's a good public speaker, And,
Yeah.
and you got the Clinton Hawk Tua joke.
They
Are you familiar with
don't-
Hawk Tua,
listen.
Stella, by the way?
Yeah.
To whom? Sorry,
Hawk Tua. There's a meme about Hawk Tua.
I had
So
no
you
idea
gotta
what you're
spit
talking
on
about.
that. Oh, well, all right, we'll talk
Oh,
about that
okay.
later. All right,
Yeah.
Ian, go.
No. I think they have Biden in place because they don't have anybody else. There is no other option. They put all their eggs in this stupid basket.
Yeah.
That's it. They got
Yeah.
nothing else.
The other argument is they want Trump to win.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, this is all for a reason. It's not just by chance that this guy happened to degrade while he was. It's all purposely put, in my opinion. a
He's
script.
very controllable in his state.
Yeah,
you know.
and exactly. I mean, it makes me laugh when he talks about looking after the elderly. It's like, yeah,
And that-
that's
right,
you, dude.
Yeah. It's
But, I
funny that
think
he thinks
also-
he says he's winning and stuff. That's really funny, actually.
Oh, look, also looking back in history, I just wonder, like, maybe 20, 30 years, it's going to be, yeah, that was the presidency where, it was like basically mentally retarded president, and that's why the country went down. It was like, just blame it on
Possibly.
Biden.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean,
So
it's not
the-
too hard to make it better after this, is it? So,
The official debate that they have here, I mean, there's not debate, but they have a bunch of watch parties, and one of them is the official watch party for the Democrat Party in Georgia. And they would not give you the address or tell you where they were. I tried to find out beforehand. So finally, I just signed up for the Democrat thing, which I was hesitant to because of all the questions they asked. I was like, if I answer these questions, I feel like they have somebody who's going to vet it, and I won't they'll tell me that they won't let me come. And I got one email telling me, here's a reservation. You need to do it. You need to do the reservation by this time. You're not allowed to bring anything in. So the whole reason I wanted to go is because I wanted to do Man on the Street and ask people who they thought won at the Democrat Party.
Yeah.
But they wouldn't let you bring anything in if you came. But then I got a follow-up email a little bit later that explicitly, and looked like it was sent to me, not like a mass one, telling me not to come to this thing and that I wouldn't be let in. It's crazy.
Wow.
Oh, okay.
All right, let's bring it back.
They did some research
We
on you.
made significant
Yes.
progress from the debacle that was left
I must have
by
talked to it right
President
before
Trump
the commercial
in
break.
his last term. We find ourselves in a situation where, number one, we have to make sure that we have a fair tax system. I ask anyone out there in the audience, or anyone out watching this debate, do you think the tax system is fair?
No, I don't think I get my
Fact
money's
is that
worth,
I
and I
said
want more of it back, you
nobody
son of a
making under
bitch.
$400,000
I think it's
gets
terribly
a
unfair.
penny.
You take too
more
much of my
of it to
fucking
go
money.
to
More
Ukraine.
And if I'm reelected, that will
Yeah.
be the case again. But this guy
giving it
has
away.
increased your taxes because of the deficit, number one. He's increased inflation because of the debacle he left after the way he handled the pandemic.
these the closing
And he
statements?
finds himself
I
in a
hope
position
so.
where he now wants to tax you more
I sure
by putting
hope
a 10% tariff on everything that comes into the United States of America. What I did, for example, he wants to
It's
get away
late for
with
him to be
get
up.
rid of
Squinting.
the ability of Medicare to
Eating it live.
for the ability for us to be able to negotiate drug prices with the big pharma companies.
It does
Well,
sound like
guess
Biden's
what?
a cock in his
We got
throat.
it.
Irony.
We got it down to $35 for insulin instead of $400. No more than $2,000 for every senior, no matter how much prescription they need. You know what that did? That reduced the federal debt by $160 billion over 10 years because the government doesn't have
fentanyl
to pay the
debts?
exorbitant prices.
Or
I'm going
debt.
to make that available to every senior.
I really want to follow up on
all
this
along,
fentanyl
it's
machine.
happening now, and everybody in America. He wants to get rid of that. I'm going to make sure that we have child care. We're going to significantly increase the credits people have for child care. I'm going to make sure we do something
See, I'm
about
optimistic
what we're
about
doing on
one more
lead
Trump
pipes and all the
presidency,
things
and then
that
I'm
are
going to completely
causing
allow
health
myself to
problems
get black
for
pilled.
people across the country. We're going to continue to
But I
fight
am.
to bring
I
down
just got to see
inflation
what
and give
what
people a
can he
break.
do with the
Thank you, President
just
Biden.
a crazy
President Trump, you
cabinet
now have
with
2
like
minutes for
Steve
your closing
Bannon as the
statement.
press secretary.
Like so many politicians, this man
Yeah.
is just a complainer.
Maybe
He
Eric
said,
Prince
we want to
for
do this, we
defense.
want to do that, we want to get rid of this tax, that tax. But he doesn't do anything. He doesn't do, all he does is make our country unsafe by allowing millions and millions of people to pour in. Our military doesn't respect him. We look like fools in Afghanistan. We didn't stop Israel. It was such a horrible thing that would have never happened. It should have never happened. Iran was broke. Anybody that did business with Iran, including China, they couldn't do business with the United States. They all passed. Iran was broke. They had no money for Hamas or Hezbollah, for terror, no money whatsoever. Again, Ukraine should have never happened. He talks about all this stuff, but he didn't do it. For 3.5 years, we're living in hell. We have the Palestinians and we have everybody else rioting all over the place. You talk about Charlottesville. This is 100 times Charlottesville, 1,000 times. The whole country is exploding because of you, because they don't respect you, and they have to respect their president, and they don't respect you throughout the world. What we did was incredible. We rebuilt the military. We got the largest tax cut in history, the largest regulation cut in history. The reason he's got jobs is because I cut the regulations that gave jobs, but he's putting a lot of those regulations back on. All of the things that we've done, nobody's never seen anything like. Even from a medical standpoint, right to try, where we can try space-age materials instead of going to Asia or going to Europe and trying to get when you're terminally ill. Now you can go and you can get something. You sign a document. They've been trying to get it for 42 years. But you know what we did for the military was incredible choice for our soldiers, where our soldiers, instead of waiting for 3 months to see a doctor, can go out and get themselves fixed up and readied up and take care of themselves, and they're living. And that's why I had the highest approval rating in the history of the VA. So all of these things, we're in a failing nation, but it's not going to be failing anymore. We're going to make it great again.
Yeah.
Thank you, former President Trump, President Biden. Stay with us because we have full analysis of this debate.
Really?
Cooper
Already?
And Aaron Burnett starts.
They've already
now on
got
CNN.
Full analysis. Well, we
The
already
pre-analysis.
analyzed it.
I would
for
like
you.
to hear what the analysis is
presidential debate
personally.
of
Yeah,
this
we
election
analyzed
cycle. This is the
it.
earliest presidential debate that we've ever witnessed as a country. We're staying on this shot to see if they acknowledge one another. One of the telling parts of this evening was from the very start, the walkout onto that debate stage in Atlanta, both the current president, President Biden, and former President Donald Trump walking out onto that stage. There was no handshake. It wasn't anticipated, though there wasn't even a look toward one another
There you go, Jack.
As this debate began.
Separate
The
rooms.
tone was set right away. They debated on
right.
issues including the
What are y'all's thoughts? Instant reactions.
I reckon they put Joe Biden on slow chat, and he's very, very carefully scratching his face so he doesn't wreck that mask. He's just moving so slowly. It's not normal.
It really is. I wish they had. Actually, they do have the camera on this. Let me put this on screen. I just found another.
And I'm sure
feed
his
here.
chin's just a little bit more wrinkled than
It's
should
just a
be.
little bit
like
butt
somebody forgot
fuckable.
to
It's a little
tuck
butt
in that
fuckable.
bit.
His chin is.
Yeah, it's come loose under the lobes.
It looks a
That's
little
low
weird.
lobes. Low lobes
Yeah.
Biden.
So here, let's see what Anderson Cooper. Hopefully, this stream is a different CNN stream. Hopefully, it's got a little more audio to it.
Yes, Irie.
And Chief
No
National
hands.
You guys hear
Correspondent
that?
John King. John, let me start
Yeah,
with
it's
you.
good.
Your thoughts.
Anderson, this was a game-changing debate in the sense that
Game-changing.
right now, as we speak, there is a
Game-changing.
deep, a wide, and a very aggressive panic in the Democratic Party.
Deep and
It
wide?
started minutes into the debate, and it continues right now. It involves party strategists, it involves elected officials, it involves fundraisers. And they're having conversations about the president's performance, which they think was dismal, which
They're
they think will
throwing him
hurt
under the
other
bus.
people down the party in the ticket. And they're
You're
having
right, Stella.
conversations about what they should do about it. Some of those
Yeah.
conversations include, should we go to the White House and ask the president to step aside? Others are,
So,
other of
yeah.
the conversations are
It's a
about
big
should
far right
prominent
swing.
Democrats
I mean,
go
it has to
public
be
with
huge.
that call.
It has
Because
to
they
be
feel
huge.
this
Gonna be.
debate was so terrible. They do say
Okay, they're admitting
in
it's
moments in the
terrible.
debate later, the president got better and got his footing.
No,
but
he
then at the
didn't.
end, even his closing
He never
statement was
did.
a little halting. The contrast between the two
So they
candidates.
wanted
Let
to
me
get
be
rid of
clear.
him then. This
None
was
of
a
them, and a
showcase
lot of
to get rid of
Republicans
him, maybe.
don't think Donald Trump had
How
a great
could it
night.
not be?
Donald Trump broke
Yeah,
the fact
I
check
mean,
machine
anybody
more
with
than
a
I can
thinking
count
brain
tonight.
would
But
see
that
that
will be on
he's
the
an
list as we
incompetent
go
old
forward.
fool.
He refused to answer
Anderson
some very
Cooper's sitting on a
specific and
dildo.
direct questions about his
Another
conduct, about January 6th and what all. So that will be dealt with out there. And sometimes there's a parallel universe between the political elites and the American people. It'd be nice to see what the voters say.
Yeah.
But I can tell you, it started minutes
this is like the
in. It
critic
started with
score
the first couple of
versus
answers,
the
and it has continued
audience
throughout the night
score
from
on
a,
Rotten
"Oh my
Tomatoes
God,
on
oh my
this
God, oh my
is going to
God,"
be
to what do we do about
so
it?
different.
And it involves very senior
Yeah, you're
people in the
right, bro.
Democratic Party, including elected officials, saying we have a problem.
Audience
Just to
score
co-sign what John is saying,
100%.
I mean, the panic that I am
Look how many people are
hearing
on
from
this
Democrats
panel.
is not like anything that I have heard.
They're
in
all
this campaign so
knights
far.
of this
And a lot
round
of it has
table
to
of
do with, first of all, there
journalism.
was a deep frustration
90
about
people
Trump's
of the
lies.
United
I mean, he
States.
lied a
Semicircular
lot
table.
tonight. But the problem for
How do
Biden
these
was that
people
Trump
get
was able to
paid-
take
paid too
some
much to do this
sometimes
shit?
Because they
incredible
sell out,
falsehoods and turn them
and
into
they
some
fit
kind
a
of argument.
demographic.
Whereas
How do I
Biden's
sell
answers
out?
were in a lot of cases
You're a white guy,
not
dude.
coherent,
You got to be a
deeply
Democrat and you got to be
problematic,
gay.
that he was
I'm
not
gonna turn
able
into a
to,
woman.
Take pretty straightforward
Sell out.
answers and answer them to the
Come to
American
our side,
public, and
Ian.
then also at some points bringing things up that teed up Trump attacks. So there's a real concern here tonight that there's been some real damage done that cannot be undone. Biden solidified the perception among voters, but especially
That's what Jill said
Yeah.
about
among
that pussy.
his base. They were hoping
Damage
that
was
tonight would be
done.
a game changer. They are now seeing
Kazarian's got their
a
money from the fall
president
guy.
who is in the White House, who they do not necessarily believe can do this for another 4 years.
David Axelrod?
Look, I
Is
can't
that his
argue
real
with,
name, Axelrod?
with either of them about
No
how
way.
Democratic leaders are reacting to this poll. We said at the beginning that each
Axelrod.
person had a fundamental goal.
There's so
And
much
for
in these
Biden,
names.
That goal was to
I know, there
appear
really is in
energetic,
there.
engaged, and look like someone who
He's
is
a stable
capable
guy.
of serving for another 4 years for president. That was job number one. I actually think he scored a bunch of points. I think if you just judge this on sort of policy stuff,
he
did
scored a
score
bunch of points, you
on
think?
issues like abortion, for example.
Ah,
and some
yeah,
of
he
the
won a few
economic,
battles.
He
issues.
dunked.
But
Oh, give me
there
a
is a
break.
feeling. I think there was a sense of shock, actually, at how he came out at the beginning of this debate. How
Having sucked
his
a bunch
voice
of dicks
sounded
before.
About he seemed a little disoriented.
Seemed a
He
little
did get stronger
cock-throated
as the debate
before.
went on, but by that time, I think the panic had set in, and I think you're going to hear
By
discussions
that time, the panic
that
had
I
set
don't
in.
know will lead to anything, but you know,
You sound like
there are gonna
Hunter
be
Biden
discussions
after
whether he
Bender.
should
Just
continue.
more panic
And I
without
think part of
substance.
it is Donald Trump did not meet his mission either.
No, this is
could
too
not
easy. They're
resist
gonna-
the
they-
attention,
they might replace
the temptation to be nasty, to prevaricate
I hope it's
about
Hillary.
a whole bunch of things. About his
Look
own
at their
record,
outfit
about
colors are
Biden's record,
coordinated, you can tell. Yeah.
and to seem petty and small at times. So what you saw was a candidate who's deeply vulnerable and
Nice
a president
trees
who
in
may
the
not be
background.
able to take advantage
Yeah,
of
like,
it.
Listen, if anybody in America thinks that was
I know where that
even
is. That's
close
where Lev used to
to
work.
being
Ian, where
an
this new
okay
CNN
debate
center
by
is.
Joe Biden.
We
I'm living
filmed
in a
stuff
parallel
there.
universe. It was an unmitigated disaster for President Biden from the second he walked out to the closing statement.
Can you
The
just
biggest issue for
hang on a
Democrats
sec.
is abortion, and he couldn't give an answer. He gave an answer, he couldn't even give a coherent answer on the biggest issue for Democrats
He's
tonight.
look at Axelrod
I've heard
texting.
from
They had him split screen. He
Leading
didn't realize
Democrats
it.
across the United States, elected governors.
If you're ever on camera, you
congressmen
should
who
know
are
that
texting me and
when you're
saying,
not talking, you
I'm
might
worried
still be
I'm
on
going to lose
camera.
if Joe Biden's
Yeah.
at the top of the table.
You
Is it the
know?
case?
Casey,
Is it
I
the
promise
case
you
that this
tonight,
is
the
like
state of
left and
Pennsylvania
right, or are these
is
people
thrown
all
up in his
neutral,
mouth
or
because
what's
he
the story
knows
here?
that if he's gotta
This
stand
guy
next
is
to Joe
supposedly
Biden,
he's the
going down in
acceptable Republican that
Pennsylvania.
CNN has on.
If
The others
he's
are
on
all
the ticket,
left,
I don't know how it's
left-leaning.
going to work.
Yeah, look, it was a really
the people
disappointing
that are
debate
positioned on
performance
the
from Joe
left
Biden. I don't
against
think there's
the
any
people that
way,
are
any other
positioned
way
on
to
the right,
slice it.
sort
His
of?
biggest
No,
issue
it's
that he
actually
had to
7
prove to
people
American
on the
people was
left
that he
and
had
1
the
person
energy and the
on the
stamina,
right.
and he didn't do that. And so I think that is of concern, and I think for a lot of Democrats that's very disappointing. I will say Donald Trump also had some really rough moments in this debate. And talking to the Biden campaign, they say, their dials started really moving away from Trump as he was increasing his personal attacks on Biden. So I think there was a lot about his kind of character and
Their
kind of
dials?
personal nastiness that he was putting on
Well,
display.
they're robots. They have
That
the
doesn't
dials
help
on the
him
back.
with the swing voters that he needs. And I also think you saw him
Yeah, as long as
continue to
everyone
get
thinks that.
We
more
have a
and more animated
problem.
across the course of the debate. And,
All right, guys, we have
give
a
some really
problem.
problematic answers.
Did
about
anyone
January
realize how
6th.
old this
Yeah,
fucking
Really
guy
followed
is?
adamant.
Do you guys know that these
Shit.
candidates were in their 80s?
Holy shit, we got a problem.
Thank you to
Shit,
Bianca 032, by the way, for saying the only way I could tolerate this clown show is us covering it because she checked out the 2 side nonsense and
Yeah.
appreciate the propaganda reports and the
Yeah.
breakdowns. Thank you
Good
for
on ya.
the kind comment.
Oh, that's
Appreciate
very
that.
nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll give you the
Van
analysis.
Jones,
Kind of have the old
Light
man
Lash,
versus the
Van
con man.
Jones.
I can walk you through how I'm supposed to see it and say it, but I just want to speak from my
It's
heart.
hard to take it
Um,
anyone
Yeah.
seriously.
So-
I love that guy. That's a good man. He loves his country.
Purple,
God.
purple
He's
tie.
doing the best that he
up.
can.
Purple
But he had a test to meet tonight to restore confidence of the country and of the base, and he failed to do that. And I think there's a lot of people who are
I
going
can't
to want to
wait
see him
to watch David
consider
Pakman.
taking a different course now. We're still far from our
I
convention.
hate watching
And
that
there is
guy.
time
I
for
drink
this party to
coffee and
figure out
get
a different
mad
way
in the
forward if
morning
you'll allow us
watching
to
that
do
guy.
You don't snort blow and
but that
watch
was
it?
No.
not what we needed from Joe Biden.
I don't live in
and it's
Florida
personally
anymore. There's no
painful
good blow anywhere
for a lot
else.
of people. It's not just panic; it's pain of what we saw tonight.
And if I may just add to that, I
Yeah,
think Joe
we're pretty
Biden lost
kind.
in
Yeah,
the first
everybody
3
has to have a
weeks.
unique
lot of
take. You got
voters
30
probably
people on the
tuned
thing.
out, and millions of people are having conversations with their families, with their friends.
Okay,
as
so
if the
she's a
president is up
pretend
to the task, and if he
Republican.
should
She's
step
on The
aside.
View, this woman
And I'm
is?
someone who believes the
pretend
former
woman as
president
well?
is a threat
Pretend
to
woman,
democracy. I think
possibly?
he is a threat to the
Manny
America
looking.
as we know it. He wants to fundamentally change our institutions. He has laid out what his plan is. I am not confident that that is the man to take him on. You cannot tell me democracy is on the line and then give that performance tonight. If based on that, in 18 weeks, Donald
Who
Trump
is
will
coming
be the
springing to
president-elect.
Democrats' minds
The
right
people
now
doing focus
that
groups
will
tonight,
step
and we'll
in?
see if our
Who?
style group with
Who's on the
Laura
short
Coates
list?
confirms.
I think Gavin Newsom is the name they throw around a lot. I don't know.
I don't think.
I think the
Gavin
most
Newsom-
entertaining thing would be Hillary Clinton, but
no.
I would love to see a
Yeah.
Jimmy Carter Hillary Clinton ticket personally.
Jimmy Carter, they really need to, make the most of him before he shrivels up
The,
completely.
the guy,
Yeah, but
the guy's,
this is
he's been in a hospice for like 2 years now. I think he's strong enough
Okay.
to make this
Carter?
to
Yeah, he
run.
can- he
yeah.
can make
we
a
have the
comeback.
internet.
Yeah.
You could do it from the hospice.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, Denver says
I mean,
the world
Biden's,
leaders are.
Biden's going to look after the elderly. Sorry to interrupt. Biden's going to look after the elderly, so
Of course,
Yeah.
he's going to be personally in the assisted living communities looking after them. And Denver says the world leaders are giving the baton to the right again in this bullshit, ritualized fake election process.
Absolutely.
Irie says, baby girl, AOC. Bring AOC in. Yeah, I'm down with that.
Yeah, baby girl.
Hell yeah.
Yeah. Oh, they've got a few up their sleeve that they can sort of bring in along the way.
That would be
Very, very
hilarious. An
important
AOC
point.
ticket.
These are people
AOC
who love
Nancy
Joe Biden,
Pelosi ticket.
who credit
And,
Joe
you know,
Biden for
great
kicking
tits
Donald Trump
across
out of
the whole
White House.
ticket.
Democrats. The Democratic
And then
Party is a very
who's going to
diverse
break
party.
it to
It fights about a lot of
Kamala?
things. It has
And do we get
generational
to
issues,
see
it has
that?
regional issues and everything else. The
Because
thing that
Kamala
unites the
right
Democratic
now,
Party
she's probably like,
is
it's me,
trying to
right,
keep
guys?
Donald Trump from
Right?
You know what's interesting is if they do decide to set Kamala aside, they'll stop referring to her as an African American because she's not.
Is it Kamala or Kamala?
She changes it. She code switches depending on who she's talking to, so I'm not certain.
Okay.
But Kamala, like one of the whole things with her is they would talk about her being a leader they would use language that made it seem like African Americans, but
Yeah.
she's not technically she's a black person, depending on how you define it. But they will change the language they use to describe Kamala if they decide to set her aside because they don't want to make it look like it's discrimination against minorities.
Right.
Kamala's say drunk off of the Ian thinks white wine.
Always white wine.
Yeah, I know she's drunk off of something
white.
ambient.
What? I would have gone red.
No,
actually.
it's white. I'll tell you, because
I think it's red, but
red
yeah,
stains. She drinks
Good
too
point.
much.
Yes,
You're
yes.
assuming her teeth are real, though. I think she gets new ones every day.
Continuing as
No,
you
but it's
point out,
stains-
and as
you
Kate
couldn't
knows
get away
very
with it.
well,
You
this
couldn't
is
get away
a
with
guy
it.
with
Yeah,
a
yeah.
lot of pride.
Chelsea
and
Clinton
who
says
believes
Michael.
in himself.
Yeah.
And the
That'd be
idea that
great.
he's
Would
going
be
to say, you
interesting.
know what, I had a bad debate. I think I'm going to walk away from this. I find it hard to
Yeah,
believe.
Pelosi on
an
top of the
analogy-
ticket with
Scott,
AOC
sorry
for
to jump
sure.
in, but it was also it was an atypically bad performance, okay? And it was also one night. So yes, was it an important night? Yes, but it was one night in the course of a campaign. So
I think that
let's let the
makeup's
voters
covering
react
up a lot
to
of
it.
complexion
The
issues on this one, to be honest with you.
The problem with the one night is that it's a one night that helped confirm people's fears. It's the one night that
I mean,
everybody
she
was
looks rough
watching.
to me.
That was essentially, Trump said you ought to take
strike
a
a
test.
match on her
that
face.
was his test,
Yeah.
and people are going to feel that he came up wanting, not on the substance. I think he actually won on the substance.
Aggressive
Oh, really?
panic.
I don't
He
think
won on the
Trump did
substance.
well.
What was the
I
substance?
think what it says to a lot of people. a
Yeah,
lot of
right.
active
Yeah, like
Democrats
there's
is,
any
Man, we
substance.
can beat
What
this
was the
guy, but I don't know if we
substance?
can beat him with the press.
Scott,
Mushrooms.
When we came on before this debate, I said I thought this candidacy was teetering.
Look at those. This is all a
And
stage
Now I'm
Marketing.
saying it's
No,
tottering. It's tottering. It's definitely tottering. It was teetering, now it's tottering.
We got
The
9
candidacy
people
has
on the
fallen.
panel.
Okay,
And pretty soon it's going to all
Dan, I know
fall
you're
down.
speaking from your heart. I'm worried about the president. We
Are
should
ya?
pray for the
I
president.
agree with
Yeah.
you.
I think his advisors.
What,
I agree.
now?
This is
I think the
they are
White House-
murdering an old
and I think
man.
his
by
I mean, he
keeping
does. He
him
looks
in
like
the
I
White
was
House.
a lot of
worried he was going to
explaining to
collapse
do.
during that thing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I
To their
really
party
thought that would have been
and to the
sensational
American
had he
people.
collapsed.
Let the
This
old
night,
man
this
go
one
home.
night, was caused by
Yeah,
and
the
asked
color,
for
Derek. They have the
by
different
the
colors
Biden
to kind of.
team.
I
They
think that.
wanted,
Yeah.
And then
this night.
Kamala comes out in some
and
sparkly
this is
suit.
what we got. We have been told for weeks,
Like
by
Stacey Abrams
Democrats who
carries
say,
Kamala out on her.
Oh my
shoulders.
gosh.
private
Maybe it'll be
I've
Stacey
seen
Abrams.
Joe Biden do
Put Stacey
cartwheels
Abrams
and
in.
handstands
Oh, please
while
let
doing
Stacey
trigonometry
Abrams
while
be
solving
the
all the
I mean,
nation's
we,
problems.
Democratic
we've never had a
candidate.
6'9",
We now know that every
380
single
pound
person who
president
said that
before.
has been lying to the American people.
including
always the
Kevin
first time.
McCarthy.
We've been told
She would just
Kate,
eat.
I mean,
she would just
just
She
saying.
would eat people. She would
eat
literally
everything
just
we've been
eat.
told
Yeah,
about
like she would
his
eat
mental
Putin.
acuity
She would
Ah,
eat
rah,
the
rah, rah,
deficit.
by these
She'd
Democrats. has
shove
been a
Kim
lie, and
Jong Un
everything
up
we
in her
think we
ass with
knew
all the other people
has
up
been
there.
confirmed. I got a text from a friend. She's
Little
not
rocket
terribly
man.
political. She'd maxed out to Biden in the last election because she hates Donald Trump. She said to me, I will never forgive the Democratic Party for this election. If the Democrats truly believe that he is an existential threat to democracy, and that's not just some talking point, they will wake up in the morning and they will do something else because this is not sustainable.
That's another point about there are Democrats
he's gone.
who are
He's gone.
panicking,
So
and then there
scripted.
are a lot
That's it.
of
I mean, there's 9
That's
people
it.
there, and they're not all
who did
talking
not
over
want
each
to
other.
vote
Hunter,
for
put
Donald Trump,
Hunter
who
in.
do
This
not
is
want to vote
happening.
for Donald Trump, who are also
This is a
panicking
new
tonight. I heard
twist
from
on this
one
old show.
who said
What?
this is scary.
The old,
That's
you
how
know,
it was described.
the old
All right,
who's going to be
And so-
president
Second
show.
that.
Yeah,
There
yeah.
were a lot. There was a lot.
Yeah,
there
because
were a
like
lot
having
of those
replacing somebody
feelings,
this late in the game
not
is
just from the base of the
It
party,
is a
but
new
other people
twist.
who really think that there should be an alternative to Trump, who they think is dangerous. And
she's she's
That's
got the
other part
purple
of
on.
what is unfolding tonight
Ian,
in terms of the panic that
we've been on shows and in movies and stuff, and the coordination of wardrobe it's not an accident.
No.
Yeah,
and in fact, all of the wardrobe people coordinate. They knew what every other person was going to be wearing.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes.
There's the chick in the mauve or the purple jacket, and then there's the purple tie guy. So
Right.
they're, sort of balancing up each other. There's the guy with the on the far left with the red tie, and he's
And
sort
the
of
Apple
kind of a
Watch
bit
there.
Trumpy looking. And then here's the guy
complicated.
counterbalanced on the right with the blue tie.
And that's the
Well, one of the biggest
Republican, the one you mentioned
complications
with the
right now is
Trumpy
conversation with
looking
the
guy.
Democratic
Yeah.
Yep, and the red
The other
jacket woman
complication is going to be
balanced
if
with
Joe
the
Biden
blue
stays
jacket
put
man
and
there.
She
that's
must
right,
be a
maybe
Republican
there'll be another
also.
debate.
Must-
I'm
yeah.
not sure Donald Trump's going to agree to a second
That's
debate.
the suggestion,
Biden's going to need
at
it
least.
now. I'm not sure Trump's going to agree to it.
And it's like they didn't give her any makeup because she must be a Republican.
And
You know?
his tie has diagonal
Especially
stripes
the
from the
YouTube
top to the
guys.
bottom, and the guy on the left has diagonal stripes from the
for
top to the
whatever
bottom the
reason-
other way. So
And
it's
they
all
probably
very
took
beautifully balanced.
photos after they got these guys all in dressed up. They took photos, sent them to the producers. They knew Anderson
get the
Cooper would
okay.
be in the middle.
Yeah. Right.
And then they
all
and then they
sucked
put and then they
Anderson's
put
dick.
pictures on a wall, and they all decided who was going to sit where.
And
That's
who was
what
going
they
to suck
do.
Anderson's dick
Yeah.
first.
Yep.
Yeah.
100%.
People have a very positive opinion of.
And
for a
Anderson is
lot of
sitting on
good
like
reasons.
4 phone
I think
books.
Donald
Probably called
Trump
in some
won
astrologers.
Several policy
Yeah.
exchanges tonight. I think he did well on immigration. I think he did well on the economy. I think
They
he
talk
did well
about
on
the issues, like any of the
inflation. I think he went back to
content of the
Afghanistan.
issues.
They're
and stuff
saying-
like
they're
that
saying
wasn't
he
The thing
did-
he
mattered
did not
at all.
do
They're saying
was
we got to
after he
replace him. This
realized
is
that he had
dismal. But
Biden
here are
beaten
all here's a
on
list of like
policy
5
and
things
on
that
image.
did well.
He should have turned the page.
Well, here's a list of the
Sounded an
proper
optimistic note about
content, substance positions to take for the next person we put in there.
Right.
Joe Biden all night. I understand
That's true.
what you're saying. But at the end of the night, very few things about the policy exchanges is going
I
to be
mean,
remembered.
their best shot
People are gonna
would be to
remember
apologize
Joe
to
Biden.
RFK
But that
They're going to remember
and
him
say, "Would you
shuffling
come
out.
back?"
I was
They're
wondering
gonna
whether
remember him
he was.
That would be their
smiling at
best
camera.
option.
But he's
They're gonna remember him
anti-vaccine,
looking down,
so they
losing
can't
his
deal
They
with
can't
that.
do it.
And
But
they're
he's
gonna
not.
remember
He's
that
just
everything I
anti-vax
thought I
COVID,
knew,
I
but the
think.
He's
White House told me,
anti-COVID.
"Don't believe
Yeah,
my own
it's-
eyes," is actually true.
But that's
What if
what-
after all
Selective.
this they
Scott
don't
was,
replace Biden and he still wins?
If Joe Biden were not the
And this
candidate,
goes
Not
back
a
to the
chance.
theory of
another
what
candidate,
is this
I
just to
think
see
Donald
what people
Trump
will
would
put
be
up
in
with.
deep
Maybe.
Yeah.
That to me would be the most dire.
Well, you know my
situation.
theory
Yes.
that if Biden
It
if
is.
Biden wins re-election, his approval goes down 5 points the next day.
I reckon he would die very soon afterwards if that happened.
And he'd still continue to be president.
With any normal
From the
Yeah.
grave,
generic
yes.
Democrat next to
Right,
him, I don't
because
think he
he's-
would
he-
No one will
have
notice.
Like a
Because
Futurama, they'll
somebody
put
who was
his head in a jar.
suffering from the moment that they got
Yes.
out, it
And
was
people
hard
would
to
say
watch.
The
that
decrepit
that's
little
better
brain
than a
will die.
Because
dictator
it was so
Yeah.
uncomfortable.
on day
I
one.
think America deserves better than the options that are in front of them. It's
true
really
grey matter.
devastating. And by the way, our allies are watching.
Yeah,
look, I mean,
Chase
the way
Oliver of
that
the
I try
Libertarian
to
Party
phrase
is
it,
going to
probably
be
less emotional, is,
promoting himself
Biden
hardcore off of this for
stuttered,
sure.
but he told
See?
the truth.
Purple tie.
You look terrible. Those policies were good. Trump spoke plainly.
He looked
but he lied
terrible
the whole time.
But okay,
And he looked
nice
good,
spin.
but his policies were terrible.
Ollie
I mean,
Demigard
he's,
would have
he's going to
something
do
to say
nothing on
about
climate
these
change.
colours.
He was hugging the cactus on abortion. I mean,
So this is what they do. Somebody that we both know, Ian, a friend of ours, who is in a group with me, you know who I'm talking about probably. But he has said before
Oh yeah.
a while ago, I don't even remember the complete context of the conversation, but it was something about, I think I was talking about how I'm not, I don't vote for a lot of offices. I don't vote for the presidency because I just don't trust that whole thing. And I was talking about how people they'll just vote for a party, they'll just vote everything for the same ticket. It doesn't matter. They will know who they are. And his position was, well, aren't you just voting for the policies? It doesn't matter who the person is. Which is exactly how you find yourself voting for pedophiles and rapists.
Yeah,
and-
that's how you find yourself in a communist hellhole where every leader is
Exactly.
corrupt.
Exactly. Weekend at Biden, says Derek. That's funny.
Yeah.
Yeah,
or you end
I
up with
mean,
a-
that-
or you end
that
up with a
brings-
cactus
Mhm.
running the country.
Yeah.
But that was the point that Van Jones was just making there, the
maxed
same
out,
way
right?
that our
That-
friend.
that's
Oh,
the-
yeah.
That's the sentiment you're going to
Which
hear.
he probably
I
got
think,
from Van Jones.
Right.
So my Democratic friends were texting me saying, "I can't believe this is where we are." Right?
Yeah.
I can't. I don't forgive. I can't. I'm not going to be able to forgive the party for putting
They're
in
just
this
figuring
position.
this out now.
look,
That's what's so crazy about it.
Yeah, it's just such
Seems a little.
It can't be real. These people,
Right.
do
It
have
seems they knew what was
some
going to
brain.
happen.
Yeah,
And again,
it's kind of like that friend of yours, you know, that's
I know
had
these
their
lies by
5th
heart.
drunk
There's
driving
a point.
accident,
But people
and they
watching
look
from
at you
home
like,
do not.
I think I have a
And
drinking problem.
Biden's job
Really?
as the other
Yeah.
person on the
Really?
other side of the
Yeah.
stage
Yeah.
is to be the
No
one
shit.
to
No.
very quickly dispense with the lies and to shut them down. And I don't think that happened enough times in a coherent way to blunt the fact
wasn't
that Trump
much
was
coherence at
taking
all,
a
really.
universe that was built on a house of lies.
She wanted
and
people to
building
shut down Trump.
building
The
a whole
moderators
world for
to,
the
I guess, to
millions
shut
of
down
people
Trump more.
watching.
Particularly on
that-
some of the most basic
on basic
subject
that-
matters that
and
President
that
Biden should have been able to just.
That world that he was able to build, it was not knocked down by the president. That is really at the heart of the problem. He may have won when he was making his discrete policy.
I mean, these are all
points,
grifters.
But part
Every
of the job
single
on
one
the
of these
debate
people.
stage
Absolutely.
is dealing with an opponent like Donald Trump, who goes like a mile.
Can you
a minute
imagine what the
on
view
things
is
that
going
are
to be
not
like?
true. And if you don't
I'm
deal
not
with
sure,
that,
Abby.
I don't know if
Yeah,
but
yeah.
no one at home is doing that.
It's going to be probably, I wonder who
I'm
they'll
not
have
sure.
on.
I
Maybe
don't
Jill
think you're
Biden
giving viewers
or maybe
enough credit.
Kamala.
I think what they saw was the Trump that they didn't like. And I
don't
he
think
did
they're going to
himself a
realize
great
how much
service.
tonight did help
Yes, and I also
RFK, to
think
be
we
honest
should
with
just-
you.
I also think we should let voters
Yeah,
absorb
that's a good
this and
point.
see what they say, right?
Yeah, I
Let's
reckon
look
you
at the side.
definitely got that one.
Look at, let's look at where they are
Expect
next
to see
week. We
him.
can make our pronouncements, but ultimately voters have to
They're
absorb
going
it.
to
and
turn
let's
your
see what
mics
they
off,
say.
guys.
Real
You're gonna
quickly,
turn
on
your mics
the-
off.
Oh, they're all
one thing
talking
that,
over
you know,
each other.
that Biden did fact check him on the Charlottesville thing. He was completely wrong. Right, so he's up there talking about Charlottesville and Trump not denouncing the two sides. And Snopes was out last week, 7 months, 7 years too late, kind of thing on the deal. And that's the thing Joe Biden's going to fact check him on, something that was proven false.
We're gonna more with the panel out
Oh,
here.
let's not go
a
deeper
lot
into
of
that. To
notable
me, that's like
moments.
something. If this were news and actually people
Yeah,
who
exactly.
they would explain that, but they don't
Yeah.
do that.
They don't care about how they got it wrong.
No, they get it wrong on purpose. And so I think when I say stuff about that, I'm like imagining people that I know that believe the news, where it's like, don't you think that they would actually, that seems like an important thing that the president said he ran on, that they actually kind of cleared up, sort of, even though they say he intended, they read his mind, and they just race past it. If they really cared about being news and cared about informing people, they would elaborate on that. But you say that, and then your friend looks at you and goes, "Oh, I'm sorry, you've been captured by the right-wing, white nationalist, Christian extremists, Nazis, white, I can't even talk to you." It's just crazy, the brainwashing.
Oh.
Audie, Caitlin, and Chris are
God,
here. It was
she's
very
the
early
worst,
on.
dude.
I mean, it's
Chris,
sad
it
we have
seemed
to
from
even
that
point it out.
moment, That was it.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
I think it was even before that
See, like,
moment.
she's
when he
got her
first
mint
started
green.
speaking, President
Everybody's
She's got
got
the
the
olive
mint green.
green.
You're right.
The hoarseness in his
You want to
voice.
eat her.
Yeah.
She
Was
looks
at
minty.
9/11,
Yeah.
And
It's
there
that
were several
fluoro
minutes
green
when
and
Jake
whatever.
and Dana were setting the rules. So it's
And Chris
probably
Wallace
less
wearing
than
the
10
same
minutes
suit
into
he's
the
worn for
debate,
30 years.
And he totally lost his train of thought and ended up saying Medicare just out of the blue.
Thank you, D's
know,
laughs.
We've heard so much from the other
Thank
panel
you,
about
D's
their
laughs. That's
reactions to
great.
this. I
D's
think
laughs
ever
manages
since,
a
and I've had
comedy
this
club.
conversation
I
so
know,
often,
man.
that
I
after the
love-
midterms, if Joe Biden, after
Love
a
hearing that.
remarkably successful
Because we don't get to
first
hear
2
people
years and
laugh.
a remarkably
Not doing this live.
Different, yeah, right.
That's why we
It's
got to
different
get back to doing a
president
live show, Brad. I
had
miss
said,
it.
You know, I'm
Yeah, I
the
do
transitional
too.
president, and I'm moving on and sending it to another generation. But he was.
Oh, this
unwilling
is
to
the
do
after
that, and
speech.
Joe
Show us the.
Biden
Oh, this is
willing-
great.
Was unwilling to do that, and ever since then we have been.
So
I'm just. as
Jill's
you're saying
like
that,
15
I'm
years
only
younger
interrupting
than
you,
him.
Chris, Because
Yeah.
that is a watch party.
That's
live
that
right
is a
now. Jill Biden.
you
Joe
know, I
Biden's
guess
joining
something
her
he can brag
at the,
about, right?
The watch party she was at
Right.
in Atlanta.
Yeah, then
Obviously,
Trump
a
could go, well, look at
response that does
Melania.
not match
Yeah,
what's
yeah. Yeah, maybe that
the
they
broader
should have
response
debated about
that
whose
cheering
wife
for
is
him right
hotter.
there, as you can see.
Yeah, screw the golf.
Well, right here.
Screw the wives.
No, we don't have to.
Okay, we're not.
I'm-
And anyway, I was just going to say that the two of them decided
Oh,
after
she must
November
put up
of
with so much.
2022
It's
that
like-
he
She
was gonna
controls
see
a lot of his
when
public
there were so many
appearances.
people who thought he should have turned it over to a new generation, and this has been, quite frankly, a car accident in slow motion that we've seen over and building and questioning it. And,
Yeah, they
you
knew
know,
this was gonna
as has been pointed out, Joe Biden sought this debate at this remarkably early time because he knew he was losing and he needed to change the
This is
narrative.
how they showed
And he did
America they
change the
need to change
narrative.
candidates.
He sunk his campaign tonight.
I
Well,
predict there's
and
going to
we're in the
be
spin
some
room
very
right now. This is
interesting
where the surrogates and allies of the campaign come
compilations
to spin
of
their
the
candidates' respective
I think they should have
performances,
some
and it
sort
is
of
going to be an
competition.
immense challenge
Level.
Yeah,
for
oh,
Biden's
speaking of some great
surrogates. We have
compilation
Governor
stuff.
Gavin
It's
Newsom
like
here,
Babel.
and also
Yes.
Georgia
Georgia Senator Raphael Warnock in the back of the room. There are Trump campaign aides in here as well. No reporters are talking to them. Every reporter in here has just swarmed the two Biden surrogates that are
same
inside
chick
this
from the
room.
last-
And I think what
same
I'm
Manny
amazed
one?
by after
Caitlin
listening
Collins,
to
the
that
porcelain
entire
doll.
performance and talking to the
So
Biden
she's
campaign
cloned
officials and
herself.
covering President Biden myself his first 2 years in office was part of his closing statement there. He made no mention of abortion or
Show
Donald
Biden's
Trump's felony
speech, man. They
conviction.
wouldn't even
The
show
two
it.
things that they have talked about the most,
your
the
hand
fact
out of
that
your
that is
pocket,
the
Joe. It
biggest
looks very
contrast
sus.
between President Biden
I thought they
and
just
former
put a
President
random
Donald
black
Trump.
girl
Obviously,
behind Joe
the
there.
felony conviction, but also
Token.
what they've done on reproductive rights and the fact that 3 of the justices who
Made her a
helped overturn
translator
Roe
or
versus
something
Wade
useful.
were put on the Supreme
Oh,
Court
and Kamala's
by
gonna be
former President
speaking
Donald
next.
Trump. But on
So,
January 6th
doesn't
itself,
I have
as an
a
issue,
friend of
Donald
mine
Trump
who's been a
lied about
diehard
January 6th.
Biden
He
supporter
downplayed his own
who is
role,
now
and he also claimed
telling
that
me not
police
to
officers
celebrate
were
too
ushering
early
people in that
because
day.
they're going to
They've
replace
testified they were
Biden
actually
and they're going
overwhelmed and
to give
outnumbered, and
Kamala
that
the
is why people
boot.
were able to get into the
Yeah.
And that Biden is an embarrassment and that he
Delivered an
shouldn't
address on
run.
the anniversary
Like
of
this
the
is
Roe
real
versus Wade
time.
said that
These
Donald
are
Trump
my liberal friends that I
That's
love.
what they wanted to create, that
did not
response.
seize
Okay,
I have to
Ian.
give him prop. What's that?
Ian, could you ask them what do
Yeah.
they reckon is going to happen after that?
So who do they want?
Biden out, Kamala out. That's
That's what they
legible.
won't answer. Now it's on radio silence.
Tell him he's racist for saying that about Kamala.
At this moment, we want
Oh,
to
yeah.
talk to his aides. Does he know?
and
We can
sexist
hear
as
him a
well.
little bit on the mic.
She just asked if Biden knows that he's too old, basically.
He's not the first president
Mick
who's
Green
had a really
chick did.
Since we can hear it, why don't we listen to a little bit
Yeah,
of it?
let's see what he has to say.
Heading to North Carolina. All right.
Raise up.
Thank you.
It's a rap song.
I want to go home with you. Thank you.
Yeah, Zach says his Biden supporting friends are saying. he's
Yeah,
sarcastic.
one of my friends is saying Gretchen Whitmer would be a good replacement.
Oh yeah, the kidnapping victim
All right, so
of
there
the
it is.
FBI.
Thank you. The rousing applause going to that party.
I love how they're all.
He
I'm like,
wasn't a third that vibrant or vigorous inside
So
the
funny.
debate body.
Yeah, I mean,
I have to say, I have to give my
I
friends
think a lot of
props for
Americans
putting up with
saw
all my
Donald
shit talking
Trump
to
they
them.
recognized tonight, right? His mannerisms.
They should give you
his
props for
quickness in
putting
his
up with
response,
being
and,
completely
as you
brainwashed and
talked about,
psychopaths.
lies
I know
about
they say I'm in a
information
cult
that was
like every day on this
incorrect.
thread.
Unfortunately, they also saw a Joe Biden maybe they don't recognize. This is not the person.
That's
who
it. Biden's post debate speech was like 7 seconds.
We're going over to North Carolina. Come on, man. Listen, man. Come on. So I realize my Biden has a little Sammy Davis in it, but I think it works.
Yes, it does.
It works too.
You know.
You just gotta get that expression.
Come on,
Let
man.
a little
Come
bit of
on.
the black in there.
Come on,
Yep.
man.
So look at Chris Wallace looking at the first black woman he's ever seen in his life right here.
Yeah.
What's she doing
Yeah.
next to me?
Oh my
Look at her there.
God.
Think about how he talked about
Are they in the same
abortion,
room?
for instance,
You're beautiful.
trying to show that he was not extreme in some way.
All right, so we got it. We know what they're doing with it. Interesting. It's there's definitely not going to be a second Biden-Trump debate. I think the one scheduled for September. I believe.
I sure hope there's another one.
I would love to see another one.
Please, I think give Biden one more shot.
Give him the
look
golf
how
match at least.
Dude, these are all at these fly by night, these like bandwagon fans. As soon as their team lose one game in the playoffs, they
just
abandon
give up
them.
on them.
They just give up.
You know what I reckon would be fantastic for America?
What?
Put Melania and Jill there to have a debate. Now,
That's a great idea.
Let the
Stella. In
first
bathing
ladies
suits.
debate.
Yeah.
Yeah, in mud wrestling.
Yeah, there's a bunch of different challenges they have to go through. Now, I'm not going to discount. Jill could be tough. She looks like she's in good shape.
She could be a bit of a surprise, Jill. Yep.
Yeah.
You never know what she might whip out.
Right.
Oh,
yeah.
speaking
It
of
could be
that,
huge.
Obama's,
Could be-
what's her name? Michael?
Michael.
Sorry, Michelle.
Yeah, Obama's. So
Bring her
let
in.
me. So Huck Tua, Stella, is a meme, well, not a meme. It is a trending video from over here. There's these guys who go to places like Nashville here, where
Party towns.
it's just like the home of
Where all the 20-year-olds are getting drunk.
It's the home. Yeah, it's the home of bachelorette parties.
Yep.
And so there's always these drunk girls in their 20s around there, and they just do these. They find them and they ask them questions like, "What's the thing that you would do to make men go
okay.
wild in bed?" And this one girl went. She's a redneck, and she was just like, "You got to give him that hook too. You got to spit on that.
Yeah, knock that
thing."
dust off.
Yeah, knock
Knock
the
the
dust off the
cobwebs off.
pussy and spit on the dick.
Yeah,
And it just fucking it blew up to the point where she allegedly lost her job, and she's now selling hats that say Hawk Tua on it.
Yeah, she's making a killing probably.
And everybody's in
Good
love
for
with her
her.
because she's
Yeah.
super good looking.
Of course.
And I, you know,
Oh, so she's not
me
controlled at all.
included. Right, yes. But so that's like the Hulk Tua thing has become part of our lexicon here in America.
Yeah, it's
beautiful
everywhere
description.
right now.
Excellent.
Yes. And speaking of which, let me show you what. Speaking of Caitlin Collins,
I mean,
and
isn't that
and-
great? Somebody's built this merchandise opportunity out of absolutely nothing.
Well, if she got fired from her job, where she was a
Yeah,
school teacher,
but did she? I mean, you just
maybe
gotta
she
take their
didn't.
word
I don't
for
know.
it.
She was
The
a
fact-
school teacher?
If you hadn't said
That's
she
what they
was
say,
beautiful,
yeah.
I
What?
think I would probably have more faith in it maybe being a thing. But I don't know.
Well,
I just
these
think
guys
so.
don't interview people that aren't good looking. They find the people that are the chicks that
Okay.
are the drunkest and the best looking, and they go
Fair
ask
enough.
them questions.
All right.
Yeah. No, Caitlin Collins was interviewing
Selling
that
booze.
Frank Luntz guy who does the polling
great.
stuff.
I
He's
just
full of
love
shit.
how I just love it. He looks like he's just a haggard detective that's just been on this case forever.
And he's full of
and
shit.
nobody is listening to him. Well, he's always
Usually.
telling them how they're underestimating Trump. If you ever watch what
He has been doing that a little bit lately.
you know,
but this is what. So that's him with wearing a toupee, very obviously wearing a toupee.
obviously.
Yeah.
And Caitlin Collins in that weird yellow outfit. And I said, CNN's Caitlin Collins looking like she's about to hook to Frank Luntz. And I feel like that's what she was thinking. Must have been saying a lot of bad things about Trump right there. She's actually a Alabama alum, University of Alabama. So she
Power of a
loves.
toupee.
Yeah, that's her. Yeah, it's definitely a toupee. I just don't understand how you can wear that and go on television. Does nobody tell you?
Yeah, at least put a little bit of grey hairs in it or something. Just not this just looks like a hedgehog or something.
Frighten Me says Frank Luntz was right one time. Yes, one time. Let's see what the comments are over here. Tommy says, if she don't hawk Tua, I don't want to talk Tua. Yes, that's very... yeah, teachers are retarded. Yeah, teachers are retarded. A lot of them are. They're very, some of them are good, but very,
Look, almost all
public
my
school
teachers. Yeah, almost all my teachers were retarded.
It's just they are not, especially now too, because a lot of them are like, it's like if you're a teenager and you're trying to get laid, it's like which teacher's the horniest, I think.
And then she made me drink beer and kiss her and touch her
And I had to stick my hard pee-pee. Oh my god! Yeah, it's just. And it's always like some poor guy who's like working 2 jobs to support his family. It's like his wife is banging the 15-year-old. There was one recently where this teacher got fired for making out with a 5th grader. That is way too far.
Oh,
Yeah, that's very
Unless
creepy.
it's somebody who failed 5th grade like 10 times.
But honestly, like a
Yeah.
16-year-old kid who complains about it, you're like, come on, dude.
Well,
Yeah.
so the teacher story was satire.
Wouldn't you
Big
just be
Perm?
buying them a beer? I mean,
What's that?
wouldn't you just be buying them a beer?
Yeah,
Like,
I guess.
score.
Yeah,
I don't know.
yeah.
can
Depends
bring
on,
beer to
depends on the age of the
class.
teacher, of course.
You can make
Some of these
anything a
teachers are
lesson,
like- They're barely out of nappies. little
Some of them
diapers.
are young. They're very young.
Yeah.
Big Perm says the teacher story was satire. So she wasn't actually a teacher. Maybe she wasn't. I don't know what she was.
Because I would like.
All
what
I know
does
is she can hawk Tua.
Because you and I talked about no.
It's satire.
She's a cocktail waitress, is what she is.
You're right
that's
about that.
that's. I think she's a cocktail.
Hell
yeah,
yeah,
she's a
hell
hawk
yeah.
Tua cocktail waitress.
Can
No,
you
but
imagine the DMs that chick is
when I
getting?
was a bartender, she is like got the mold, a classic mold of a cocktail waitress at a very popular local bar.
And the girl that everybody on stage at an improv show hopes that she thinks is the
She goes and she goes and she watches the improv show, and then
Oh,
every
she likes
improv
tomatoes.
guy hits on her at the bar afterwards.
It's like,
Yeah.
she's not like, oh, that's somebody you're gonna meet in church.
Yeah.
Maybe. Steve says this version of Biden, the worst version, worst thing he's ever been, and that turd Scarborough are going to change his tune. I doubt it. Scarborough were very sad. He'll be like, it's very sad that he is declining. Trump was still bad. Maybe we need somebody else. So I think they're going to turn against him pretty much universally.
Well, yeah. I mean, that's what I'm getting from the grassroots feed here.
I
They're
agree
all
with
turning
Renee
on
here
him
a
right
little
now.
bit. My my foamy says that Lefty said, CNN is just trying to get ratings. Yeah, ratings is definitely a major part of this. This is a lot. This is a big. Well, let's get attention.
That was their main set, wasn't it? It was CNN in the background.
Well, they came to Atlanta where they just moved. They just got a new building in Atlanta where their headquarters is, and they're all here. And they've shut down roads and like the Varsity closed early.
Oh. Yeah.
And so Stacey Abrams cannot have her 2 dozen hot dogs she has every night before bed, and the whole. And
It might boost the economy of another neighborhood for
right. It's crazy how Fannie Willis is just like a little bit of a tinier Stacey Abrams.
Yeah.
If you look at them, and they're both like a little bit tinier Lizzos. You put the three of them together, and
it's like a Russian doll.
Right. They're all they're all clones of each other that came out a little bit size wise taller or shorter.
Yeah.
It just tweaked the knob just a little bit between each hatching.
Right.
Brad, I got to get going. I just looked at the
Ian,
time,
thanks for
and I
hanging out.
actually have to go.
I know you
work
hang out late
tomorrow.
tonight, so I appreciate that. You got to work.
No, it was
early.
worth it. I think I'm not sure if we saved democracy.
I think we did. I think we saved.
But I'm sure we'll find out tomorrow if it's still around.
Yeah, I'm excited to see who the new candidate is going to be.
Yeah.
Ian, we'll talk to you later. You want
Yeah,
to tell
Stella,
anybody
it
where
was
they can
great
find
hanging
you?
out.
Yeah,
They
yeah,
can find
good to
me
see
at,
you, man.
they can find me at Reg V Actor. I'm somewhat active on there, but I got some other things cooking. I'm just trying to, pay off some credit card bills in the IRS.
Pay them debts. Yeah. I hear
All right.
you. Yeah.
Good luck, mate.
All right.
We'll see you, dude.
Later, guys.
Yeah.
So, Stella, if you can stick around for a little bit longer, I'm waiting for Kamala to come out on stage. I'd like to see what she has to say. But from Australia, what are your thoughts? Or just what's going on with you, or what's interesting in Australia? I know Australia's in the news a lot because of how totalitarian they say some of the government is over there.
Look, it's not much different, really. It's all the same show, just a different location, really. I mean,
Right.
They're all working under the same orders, in the same lockstep. So, yeah,
Yeah,
I know
still
I
that
sound
way,
terribly
yeah.
cynical, but it's realistic, really. I mean, if you could see our prime minister, he's just as amusing and just as useless.
Is
just
he
in slightly
ridiculous?
Different ways. Yes, very,
He
very,
is.
very ridiculous.
So he
yes.
makes stupid flubs, and he's just kind of like easy to mock. And
Mr. Little Anthony Albanese.
so look at this dim
they're all
operative. It
horrible.
says on screen, in this purple-shirted
Purple.
Asian woman.
Yep.
Dim operative. It's hard to argue Biden should be our nominee.
It's like I'm not red and I'm not blue.
But
I'm
Irie
purple.
says that Ian bitched out. That's funny. Now Ian does have to work pretty early, so he actually
500K plus for his flight. Really? Wow.
That's funny.
Yeah, Julian Assange. I was wondering if he was going to come into it. At
I
any
was
point.
was wondering if he would come into it too. Julian Assange. If you didn't believe he was a spy before, he's probably going to be one now, because you're not going to get a deal when you're that big of a political tool. So
Well, I mean, he ended up pleading guilty in the end, so it was a
And
little
that
bit
guilty
sort of like,
plea
what was
is
all
like-
that about then?
it
you
kills
know?
journalism, and I
Mm.
get he wants to get out or whatever if he is in, but I wonder
Mhm.
what's going to happen next with him.
Well, I mean, you look into his past, and he has a very colourful past in his little cult that he grew up in
He
the
used to be a bit of a
suburb
trans, didn't he?
Victoria. Oh, I don't know about that. I'm not too sure about that.
I
I
know
haven't
he's a
really-
cross-dresser. I've heard. I'm not sure. Don't.
Yes,
fact check
that
me
sort
on
of
that.
rings a bit of a bell. But the cult that he was actually grown up, I mean, his mother and everyone, it's just a very strange.
Is
Just look
that
into
tr-
that.
Yeah.
People? Oh, it's true.
He's going. He's because he's going to Australia, and Zach says that they're making him pay $500K for his flight. Really?
Making
What-
okay, I misread that before. Australia apparently making Julian Assange pay $500K for his flight. No way. No way. I was actually wondering who was going to pay for that. But
If that's true, I want to know how he has $500K.
yeah, no.
He got locked away for
That'd be
how
interesting
not
to look
locked
into.
away, but like in the time he has been wherever he has been, he has gotten a wife. He's like hooked up with Pam Anderson allegedly, then gotten a wife and a couple of children in this time, and maybe $500K to pay for a flight. It just seems like maybe whatever happened to him might be like a good career move for some people.
Well, I mean, I don't know if he actually hooked up with Pam Anderson. I mean, who's going to know that? But I sort of thought
Every
Stella,
time she
Stella,
has
his
sex,
wife,
it's on
was
video.
around.
Yeah.
Well, deep fakes. How deep is that fake going to go? But yeah, I don't know. I thought he was sort of with his wife. Maybe he wasn't with her then. I'm not sure how old their kid is or whatever, but I mean, Stella, his wife. Let's not get us confused.
Is that her name, Stella?
Yes. She was also on the legal team because she's a lawyer, I believe.
Oh, he's been given millions in Bitcoin the last few days. Okay.
Right.
Interesting.
Okay.
Wow. So very
Yeah. By whom, I wonder? Kim.com. Kim.com.
Kim.com paid for his flight. Who's Kim.com again? I've heard
It's
of
not that.
Kim.com.
Not that a journalist type investigated Kim. is
No,
it?
I
Do you
think
know?
Kim.com has been. I should know. I know what
I'm
this
mixing
is.
that
This is
up.
not coming to mind.
Okay.
It's just yeah.
Perm,
Yeah.
tell us who Kim.com is, just in
So
140
part of
characters or less.
what's he gonna do in Australia? I wonder. Is he gonna like restart his career, or you know,
Go down the bunker. It depends where you're coming from. Look, I'm very divided about. Well, I'm not really that divided, but a lot of people are very divided about whether he was a setup or whether he's organic.
There's no doubt, though. I mean, if you look at the CIA's double agent manual, they talk about how they recruit spies and double spies in their manuals, and Julian Assange would fit the perfect protocol for that. He's someone who he's vulnerable because of the situation. So this is assuming he wasn't one to begin with. Some people think he was one to begin with.
Yes, Jack.
But if wasn't and he's in a dire situation, then you go to him and it's like your kids are growing up, you're not getting to see them, you have a family, you're getting older. We'll let you out, we'll make this deal. But part of it's going to be you're going to have to do a little bit of work for us as well. And there's, in my opinion, 0% chance that that did not happen. I mean, it definitely. They're going to get something from him.
And again, bringing up his cult past, we could bring MK into that as well. MKU. Don't know how much.
MK Ultra.
Oh yeah, okay. I'm trying to be subtle. Yes.
Well, I get every video I put up that's either kicked. Like seriously, I get a notification from YouTube like 3 times a week. Zach says that Kim.com was the owner of the files the files site, Mega, and he might be Australian. Yeah, well, it's
okay. Yeah, Big Perm says owned Kim.com owned Mega Upload and has been running from the US government for like a decade as well.
Okay. So what Trump should have done, in my opinion, when it comes to Assange is continue to say that he's going to pardon him. He's talked about, I've been thinking about pardoning him, even though he could have done that in his first term.
I suppose it's the only sort of wiggle room there is left now.
Right. If he were to get pardoned, because now he's pled guilty to a charge that pretty much makes any investigative journalism that actually uncovers anything in America. It's a deterrent.
Yeah.
It's a message that if you uncover anything that we don't agree to let you uncover, the whistleblowers that don't get any shit are the whistleblowers, telling the shit they want to make it look like it's being leaked. They want people to know.
Exactly. Yep, the Greers of the world, etc.
Yeah, if you say shit they don't want you to say, you're gonna get that treatment. And even though it's not technically a legal precedent, what his guilty plea, it's enough to deter people from doing any real investigation, in my opinion.
In my opinion as well. I better clarify that. That's what the whole thing was about for Assange was exactly making a statement, making an example of. Just as there's several other whistleblowers here in Australia as well, which. Same deal, like some guy that technicality took some documents home, like 35 years in jail, or I think it might have been 33 actually. But that kind of deterrent.
It's
very
just
unfair.
All of that shit. Tommy says Pompeo plotted to kill Assange in London, and there was some audio or something of all of that.
What a puppet that guy is.
I'm just so cynical to any leaks, audio leaks, or leaks of statements like that, like you, Stella, I think, and
we're in good company.
It's just
cynicism, yes.
When you, and I think the revelation of how these people who actually pull the strings operate have become, people have learned a lot more about it. But when you actually just read their manuals of how they train these operatives and stuff, it's just kind of eye-opening that stuff you see in movies or stuff you might hear a conspiracy theorist say are actually in the manuals when they train people. And with somebody like Assange, basically anybody who's got a big amount of influence, who can swing a lot of people in one direction or another based on the words that they say in a way that most of their audience or people who like them will not question. That is someone who is either already an operative or is a target of co-option.
Or is a potential operative. Yeah,
right.
exactly.
And that doesn't mean that person can't be wise to that and, vet people and do things to try and prevent that from happening. But somebody in Assange's place, I mean, this guy's a lightning bolt for news, or lightning rod. And there's just no way that there's not some sort of op going on. It's a 0% chance, in my opinion.
In fact, it will be interesting. Nate says, didn't Hildorg want to drone strike Assange? Yeah, Assange. It will be interesting to watch Assange's next few months, perhaps.
So I kind of wonder,
there might be potential for a big distraction here.
You know what's interesting to me, and I don't know that this will come up. I mentioned this to Ian the other day, is what he pled guilty to, the charge under the Espionage Act, is the same thing that Trump was indicted for under the Espionage Act for his classified documents thing. Now that case, I mean, all the indictments against him they're very flimsy, and to me, if I'm a lawyer, or
the Mar-a-Lago
I would
thing, you mean?
try and make the parallels. I don't know if there's going to be a parallel made, but so it's just interesting.
Well, what about wasn't there some documents in Biden's garage? What happened with that?
You can't say anything about that, Stella. He's too old. Obviously, he's senile. He has no idea there's any He doesn't even know he has a fucking garage. He's like, I don't have a garage. What are you talking about?
It was somebody else's garage. Yeah. Oh, dear.
Yeah.
Yep. There's always excuses with a senile old man, so that was part of his play as well.
I just wish they would have brought up Ashley Biden. I just wish for one time somebody.
Well, maybe that's the next one.
Would bring up Ashley Biden. Another source here, the Dems saying we have a problem. This is it's such a convoluted script. The reaction is too
especially
quick.
That guy.
Yeah, Anderson Cooper, the former CIA intern.
Totally. You look into his background. Bloody hell.
The Vanderbilt is.
Yes.
You know?
Yes.
It's
and,
wild,
the brother out the window. I mean, I'm not saying anything there, but it's all very strange and shifty and sus because they all come from those same bloodlines.
Dome says, let me get my screen a little bigger here. I have a hard time seeing the comments. Dome says, I am Latinx and I stand with supporters too. It's time to get rid of. All right, so are you a Democrat, Dome? And you who would you prefer if you want to get rid of Biden?
Yeah, that'd be good to
What
know.
English lady?
English.
Stella's Australian. I don't know if she's talking about you.
Oh, okay.
I don't know.
I don't know. More than you, obviously. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, no, I'm interested to hear who you would prefer if you're a Democrat.
Yep, I'm coming from it from an Australian point of view, even though we don't really matter apparently. But it's just nice to get a bit of an outside point of view.
I like to get Stella's point of view from what America, because we hear Joe Biden talk about how America's the most admired and best country, whatever, and I just don't believe that what he says, the opinions of other countries. I would rather hear it from people from those countries than
make me cigar.
Yeah. What do people that you know over there? What are their what are their thoughts on America other than we think we're the center of the universe?
Honestly, people over here don't take a lot of notice of what's going on over there.
Probably
most people wouldn't even know who Joe Biden is.
Right, just like I don't know who y'all's head guy is.
I think the people that probably would know more are the ones that are coming fresh out of uni and all that kind of thing, because it has become quite woke in that sort of realm.
And there's a real
apparently.
push. Yeah, I saw some polls. CNN's been reporting on these polls instead of reporting on domestic polls. They've done reporting on globally. Joe Biden is leading Trump in the polls. So if everybody in the world could vote, then Joe Biden would obviously win, which is an interesting thing to report. especially since Biden, his administration, and he kind of referenced a little bit of this in the debate, had that countering domestic terrorism strategy that calls conspiracy theorists, the people who question the narrative, potential domestic terrorism threats. And I've always thought that if they really want to take that to this is like worst case scenario type stuff, but they really wanted to take that all the way to the extremes, and you can just declare these subversives, conspiracy theorists, MAGA supporters as terrorists, take away their rights, and you can make them the same as Putin and Russia, and you can call in the international forces, come save democracy and stop my political opponent, essentially. Now that's a ridiculous extreme thing, but the grounds have kind of been laid to go super extreme if they really wanted to.
It is extraordinary how, well, there's sort of two thoughts there for me. Are the people actually going those extremes? Like, are they actually that brainwashed, or are we just perceiving because they're presenting it that way?
Yeah, it's the presentation of the media. It's such controls people's perception of reality on all sides of all of this. And Doom says, if I had a choice, I'd prefer Kamala or who is DZ?
DZ.
I should probably know who that is, but I don't know who that is. But just Doom, you probably don't listen regularly. I don't vote for the president. I haven't voted for Trump. People, because I disagree with Biden, they call me right wing. I think that they're all the politicians are. I question all of them.
The fact is, they've just got way too much power. They're overreaching into areas. They. This is the thing. People are just sort of. I don't know whether they're debating the right things.
Oh, there's Kamala. Yeah. Right.
Quick.
Let's see what a Kamala's saying to. I don't think they're debating right things either. I agree.
Listen, first of all, what we saw tonight is the president making a very clear contrast with Donald Trump on all of the issues that matter to the American people. Yes, there was a slow start, but it was a strong finish. And what became very clear through the course of the night is that Joe Biden is fighting on behalf of the American people, on substance, on policy, on performance. Joe Biden
someone will believe her because she said it.
Strong.
And but I'm sorry, on substance and policy and performance
so
tonight, I mean,
he's going to take her out.
Performance tonight clearly was disappointing for his supporters. CNN is reporting Democratic lawmakers watching the debate were worried about the president's performance. One said it was a disaster. Another called it a train wreck. Those are Democrats, especially worried that Biden did not punch back on Trump's lies.
Jesus.
Listen, people can debate on style points, but ultimately this election and who is the president of the United States has to be about substance. And the contrast is clear. Look at what happened during the course of the debate. Donald Trump lied over and over and over again, as he is wont to do. He would not disavow what happened on January 6th. He would not give a clear answer on whether he would stand by the election results this November. He went back and forth about where he stands on one of the most critical issues of freedom in America, which is the right of a woman to make decisions about their own body. He has been completely ambiguous and all over the place about where he stands on that issue, despite the fact that he hand-selected 3 members of the United States Supreme Court with the intention that they would undo the protections of Roe v. Wade. And that's exactly what they did. And just 3 years ago, we commemorated the 2-year anniversary of Dobbs, wherein women across our country have been denied emergency health care.
CNN can also claim their middle of the ground here, too.
But the president of the United States was not able to make that case.
This is
Donald Trump
a show.
On the stage tonight. I mean, you debated against
100%.
Then Vice President Trump, Vice President Biden.
This is CNN trying to win back trust.
Absolutely.
Like Davos.
He was a very different person on the stage 4 years ago when he debated him. You must, I mean, that's certainly true, is it not?
Anderson, the point has to be performance in terms of what a president does. A president who incites an insurrection against the Capitol. No, but I got the point that you're making about a 1.5-hour debate tonight. I'm talking about 3.5 years.
I just wish
of
Kamala would
performance
lift
in
up with her
work
left
that has
arm,
been
just a
historic.
tall glass
Whether
of
it
red
be
wine,
The
and
man
take a
who
sip
we
of it.
saw on the
guy, the
stage
other guy-
tonight is that the
the other
person
guy
you
on
see
the
in meetings
debate
every day.
stage. The person that you saw on the debate stage that has, for the last 3.5
You're
years,
right, Michael.
up until today, performed in a way that has been about, whether it be in the Oval Office, negotiating bipartisan deals so that we have an infrastructure, a
Talk
real
about Trump's
infrastructure
Uncle
plan where
Nate?
we're putting trillions of dollars on the streets of America to upgrade our infrastructure. Whether it be the person I see in the Oval Office who is meeting with heads of the military and the intelligence community and in the Situation Room, ensuring the safety of America.
I think-
the person
yeah.
I see in Joe Biden
this
on
is
the
a
world
pitch for the-
stage,
yeah.
convening world leaders who often ask for his advice.
Oh,
Most
they
recently, just
ask
during
for
the
his
G7
advice?
conference.
Come on.
So I'm not going to spend
Just
all
for a
night
joke.
with you talking about the last 90 minutes.
Sit around
when
in a
I've been
cigar
watching
room
the
and
last
laugh about it.
3.5 years of performance.
But this was a debate that your campaign
Yeah,
wanted.
lower
You pushed
third.
for this debate at this moment. Obviously, I mean, you can't honestly say. I mean, can you say
The
that
title
you
on
are
the-
not
along the
concerned
bottom.
at all,
Rehearsed
having
this. I
watched the
think they
president's
rehearsed
performance
100%.
tonight?
It was a slow start. That's obvious to everyone. I'm not going to debate that point.
It was
I'm
just like
talking about
Dougie in the
choice
bedroom. He's
November.
gay, so he
I'm
doesn't. He's
talking
not used
about
to
one of the
pussy.
most
He's just-
important elections.
She's just that
in
useless
our
airhead that's
collective
there exactly for
lifetime.
this, to
And do we
defend
want
substanceless rubbish.
to
Yeah.
look at what November will bring.
You imagine
Dude
having
says I
power?
used to be a dim,
On
but
a
after the
course
last 4
for
years, I'm
America
Trump
that is
2024, and I'm
about a
non-binary
destruction of
Latinx.
democracy,
That's how far
electing
they have
a
gone.
man who has said he'll be a
It's-
dictator on day
Congratulations.
one, or do we want to continue on a course that's about strengthening America's economy, building and creating
Yeah.
15 million American jobs, over
Kamala,
800,000 manufacturing jobs? I
the
got that
side
this is
chick.
the afterplay for the debate, this conversation that I'm in.
That's always hilarious
And I
to me that
understand
she
why
was,
everyone wants to
what's
talk
his name,
about
the
it.
talk show
but I think
host,
it's
side
also
chick.
important to recognize that the choice in
Did you-
November
yeah,
between
you
these
didn't
two
know
people
that?
that were on the
Here, let me
debate
find the
stage
side chick image, I'll show
involves
it to you.
extraordinary stakes. And there's one person on that stage who has the endorsement of their vice president. And that's Joe
Montel
Biden.
Williams.
Mike
Neither
Pence is
person-
nowhere to be found in supporting
person on
Donald
that
Trump.
stage-
And that's why he has to look for someone else to run with him who, as we know, will embolden and rubber stamp whatever he wants, because they're going to have to make a choice to
Montel
not be
Williams, yeah.
Mike Pence and to put Donald Trump over their country.
Neither person on that stage tonight made the argument as coherently as you just did. You mentioned reproductive
Oh,
rights. I'd like to
wow.
just play that
Oh.
exchange that we saw tonight.
Are they grooming her?
Under Roe v. Wade, you have late-term abortion. You can do whatever you want, depending.
Just real quick, and I'll bring that back up. Here's Kamala Harris. She was Montel Williams, the talk show host, side chick. Like Kamala Harris is famous for sleeping her way to the top, for hawk-tooing her way to the top. That's her right there. She's not the one chick. She's the number 2 chick there.
Right. Okay. Yes, I have seen that.
He was a famous
Very
talk
good
show
point.
host in America.
Right. I didn't
In
know
the
that.
late 90s.
Yeah. Do you think there's any chance
ban
that she
on
might get in?
abortion,
I mean,
period.
you know, it would be a really interesting turn in the
I
circus,
always,
wouldn't it?
I thought, like, I predicted when Biden was president that he wouldn't finish his term and that they would make Kamala president so they could say they had the first black female
Yeah,
president.
exactly.
I don't
They
know
couldn't
that that's
get
going to
much more
happen
work.
now, but we'll
In the
see.
United States, what do you say to them about what they just saw?
Kamala was like the town bike.
They
It's
saw
very neat.
they witnessed the fact that if Donald Trump were elected to be president of the United States this November, he will sign a national abortion ban. Take him at his word. He said he would when he was president before. He said if it came to his desk, he'd sign it. There's no reason to believe anything.
I mean,
would
he
change.
said the
a
opposite
national abortion ban means
during
that
the debate. He said
folks
he would
in
leave
New
it to the
York,
states.
California,
They lie.
Maryland,
Maybe he's lying.
all
but
these other states that have
I
protected
don't think
the right
Trump
of a woman
really-
to make decisions about her own body.
I don't think
and
he
not have
is
a government
really
tell her
cares
what to
about
do,
abortion
will
the
be
way
at
that-
risk. That's what you should
she's
take
saying that he
away
does.
from that discussion.
And just
Joe
finally, I
Biden
know
was
we have-
very clear.
I
He
know we have to
will
go.
sign back into law the protections of Roe v. Wade.
But Trump should call
The
on Tulsi
person we saw
Gabbard.
tonight, the
Big
president
Yeah, but
we
she's
saw
such a
tonight on that
whiffer,
stage,
you know.
Is that how
Yeah,
he is every
yeah.
day?
You don't want to get her in there. I mean, they're all whiffers in a
The
way.
Joe Biden that I work with every day
What's
is someone
BOFAs?
who, as I have said, has performed in a way that has been about bringing people into the Oval Office, Republicans and Democrats, to compromise in a way that is extraordinary these days because it just doesn't happen, but Joe Biden can make it happen. The Joe Biden I see is someone who goes to our allies around the world and strengthens NATO to the point that there are two new members of NATO who just about 4 years ago, people said, is NATO even have a reason for existing? The Joe Biden I know is someone who has delivered 800,000 new manufacturing jobs and bringing manufacturing back to the United States, not shipping jobs out like
giving
Donald
away
Trump did.
billions and trillions
so
of
that's
dollars
the Joe Biden
as
I
well.
know.
Vice President Kamala Harris, I appreciate your time tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Good to be with you.
Back with the panel, joining us as well.
Yeah,
is
bring
Biden
that
biographer Evan
9-person
Osnos.
dipshit panel back. This is
Evan
so
Osnos, you have
stupid.
watched
Who's this guy?
President Biden a lot.
So they not only have a 9-person panel,
What
they're
did you make
bringing
of tonight's
somebody in
performance?
remotely also.
Just
I
wasn't
don't
enough.
think there's any other way to put it. This was clearly
Guy's
a
depressed.
person who was diminished.
depression
from
great
where he
again.
I mean,
was
he's
on that
almost
debate
as
stage
pressed
4
as
years
the
ago. I think for a lot of
congressional
Americans who don't
page who's
follow
blowing
politics
him
closely,
below camera
They saw
frame.
that and they were shocked. Yeah, I will tell you, Anderson,
Look at the way he's walking.
what I see
He just
now
got there.
and over the course of the next few hours and days is that it's going to come down partly to how Joe Biden makes sense of this, because his
Shut the fuck
self-mythology
up.
has always been, okay, I'm the guy that gets knocked down and I get back up. That is, in some ways, it could be a real impediment to him if he's not going to be able to listen clearly to what people around him are going to say. There has to be some very hard conversations. And if he is in some ways occluded by that story that he tells himself,
They're
that
so
he
stupid. This guy with his green fucking tie.
It's
the
just
fucking
dribble.
Leprechaun. No, it's you know, you watch a show and they put scenes in there that you can tell, and you see this a lot with the so-called woke stuff that's like, okay, that they just injected an unnecessary 5-minute scene about how this one character is trans and their history, or are they them and their history of it, and which is fine, who cares? But it was like it kind of disrupted the storyline to inject that and push that forward as a message. This is the same thing to me. This is somebody directing something where everything is a little bit too hasty and unnatural in the storytelling. So if you're going to have a character come out as trans during a show, make it a natural part of the story progression. Don't throw it in people's face to where it's kind of obviously being pushed. Everything here is unnatural.
Absolutely. I mean, even through that debate, it just seemed like there was particularly one spot there where the question had hardly been asked, and Biden knew exactly what was coming. You could just tell.
Right? Yeah.
It's just like, come on, this is obviously scripted. There's no way an old, incoherent man like that could come up with, things so quickly. And everything he started with was an ad hominem, and it was, insulting. It was just, but it was all that little bit varied. Like, I don't think he repeated himself once. So it was just this, written script of, okay, this is where you say this bit. It's coming through his ear for sure, or maybe just, wirelessly through the Neuralink chip in his butt.
Right.
Sure.
I was wondering. I think part of it was I wondered before is they're taking all these crutches away from Biden to see if he is as sharp behind the scenes as he is, and clearly he's not. And to me, it does feel a little bit like elder abuse. But it's like, well, Joe, if you want us to protect you and you want us to not, throw Hunter in jail, and you want us to not bring up Ashley Biden's diary and those weird showers, well, we're going to have to put you out there a little bit and throw you a little bit under the bus.
Yeah.
Tommy says either way, the wars will continue. And yeah, that's definitely true. The wars will definitely continue.
Yeah, there's people that come and go.
Nate says, what are you talking about? Star Wars Acolyte is doing well. Are you familiar with Star Wars Acolyte, Stella?
Acolyte? No.
Yeah, it's a Disney Plus show that I watched an episode of it with my friend the other day just to see.
Sort of like a series of Star Wars, like a follow-up?
It's like they have all these Star Wars spin-offs, and this one, it's like Star Wars. It's like lesbian scissoring in space version, I think, of Star Wars.
Okay. Why not?
In space.
Ring it out.
I feel like shows like this are made kind of like She-Hulk to get the hate watches. And I watched it the other day with Josh just to see if it was as bad as they say. And it was a terrible show. It wasn't as obviously, it was obviously the agenda, the feminist agenda being pushed, but it wasn't as aggressive. It was pretty aggressive, but not as aggressive.
Mm-hmm.
Lesbian space witches. Yeah, the director, I think that's the director's words, is the lesbian space witches. Like, she loves that, I think. And she doesn't care that the audiences aren't for it.
So interesting because, it's such a far right swing that's coming up now. Like, it's going to go completely
You could
opposite.
be right. The Nazis are going to make a comeback,
Well, yeah. I mean, like at the moment, it was funny. I was on one of the Australian websites the other day. For some reason, I can't remember why I was there, but I was reading something about the drag queen. Oh, that's
Story
right. I was in a Google search and I was looking for something completely different, and there was all these videos, and I noticed the titles were "Why the Drag Queen Hate." All this sort of thing. It's like, well, why do you reckon? But it's all this, pro drag queen sort of stuff. And so I did a couple of, hit a couple of links and read a couple of articles. And then it says, go here to see where the drag queen events are. And then you go to it, which is a .gov.au site. And it's like, error 404. There's nothing going on now because we're into the far right swing too. So it's just all part of the lockstep. We're a little bit behind you, but not far.
And I think part of that swing is they want to make it look like, so here in America, the narrative against Trump has been for the past 8 years that because of him, there's Nazis marching the street and there's racists who are just going after minorities, neither of which is true in the least bit. But if the media keeps saying it and these people who consume certain media keep believing it, it's like an attempt to manifest that reality to try and,
100%.
They can false flag a dozen things and just keep doing it until they get a real one. Over here personally, where I see people buying into that, people who are just going completely like, yeah, I'm going to be racist. I'm going to really be a racist is on social media. And which has made me kind of look at some of the people that I've seen online for a while and go, maybe this is an online fed. Maybe this person that I've followed, they followed me for a while. Maybe this is actually an online covert employee, which is the name of the federal agents. Every time you see somebody arrested for a terror plot that the FBI has stopped, throughout the entire indictment is the role that the online covert employee played in what oftentimes is entrapping the stupid person who needed a leader in their life, and this FBI agent became their leader and turned them into a patsy. And it makes me, because you look around, I don't know any Nazis. I don't know one Nazi. I live in Atlanta. I live in the South. I went to school in Milledgeville, Georgia. About pretty much as redneck as it gets. Don't know any Nazis. The racists that I've come across, nobody wants to be around them. They manufacture this division because identity politics is how they divide the populace and keep control over people by turning them against each other. It's disgusting.
100%. I mean, it's an old playbook and it works every time. And it's just that it so happens that we're in a technological age where it's much easier because we've got, although, we've got the internet and social media or media, but it's a little bit hard for them to control the other side, obviously. But yes, who was that asked? Frightening me. Yes, that is the Lockstep Operation Lockstep from the SPARS document. Yes, Operation Lockstep.
So the acolyte was apparently Harvey Weinstein's former personal assistant, the lesbian maid. Acolyte. So I don't care if he's a lesbian, but the way that she's been interviewed about how people are mad about it, she's like, I don't care. Because she's getting paid to do that. She's not getting paid to get ratings. She's getting paid to spread propaganda. It's the same thing as the media. It's so easy to be like, oh, that's a journalist when you watch the news. Oh, that's a director when you watch a show. No, because if they are, they're bad at their jobs. So those aren't their jobs. They're all propagandists.
They're actors, yeah. And that's the thing. I mean, there's the old thing of the propaganda thing is you say a lie enough times and it becomes a truth. It is. It's just brainwashing. And, it happens all the time. That's what those channels and those outlets and those platforms are for, like the Netflixes of the world and Stans and all that. That's there to brainwash people and just make the collective thought suggest it and happening. And, it's also their way of revealing themselves so that because, silence is compliance. So.
Did you say earlier that you guys were you guys have to vote?
Yes, it's mandatory.
What happens if you don't?
Well, there's supposedly a fine because when we walk in, there's all these huge books with everybody. It's like a big phone directory, if you remember those in the old days. It's like a great big book, like actual paper book, not computers. And you have to go in, you say your name. You have to be registered in your area, and you have to say your name and address. And then they just write this little line between 1 and 2, which I guess probably gets read by computers later, I guess. They join up these lines, and then I guess if you don't have that line joined up, then they send out a fine. But I've always just turned up, because I don't want to get a fine that I have to then fight.
How much is a fine?
I'm not 100% sure. I seem to remember it was about $200, something like that. But I think there are higher fines for some reason. Can't remember.
Maybe if you don't vote like a couple of times in a row.
Maybe, yeah.
Yeah, there's the old Rockefeller document too with the lockstep.
Yeah, that was the 2011 one. I can't remember the name of it, but yeah.
So when you go to vote in Australia, do you have the option of not choosing a candidate if you don't like any of them?
Well, you can just not write anything on it. I mean, there's not like there's a camera watching you do it. As far as I know.
Can you draw a penis? Can you vote for penis?
Yeah. Yeah, well, I mean, they're all penis. Vote for any of them.
Can you get disqualified to vote from Australia? Michael asked. That's a good question.
I think maybe felons might not be able to. Well, I'm not sure about that actually.
It's kind of crazy.
They do vote in prison. Good question.
Interesting. Yeah. You compel people, but do you also ban people? Because
you'd have to be a citizen as well, I would imagine. So if you're overseas and you're still an Australian citizen, you still have to vote.
I can't vote in Australia, you're saying?
No.
Now I'd like to look into it and maybe cast a vote over there.
I don't think you can, but good luck with that.
So they got a bunch of the false claims, whatever. All right, so they're going to go on with this stuff all night into the next days, and it looks like they're either going to replace Biden or just completely concede.
Well, we'll know by tomorrow what sort of form it's going to take.
Unless, what could Joe Biden do to recover from this? Is there anything like Joe Biden would have to inject some of that compound V if you ever watch the show Boys and fly up into the sky like Homelander, which they actually portray Homelander as being like Trump. But Joe Biden would have to do that to I think recover from this obvious setup and bullshit. But so Stella, thank you for hanging out with us. Always great to have your commentary. Very funny, very charming, and good insight from another country. I'm so uncultured and I'm so uninternational that I depend on you to bring a little international flavor to the show.
Oh, not a problem. Stick another shrimp on the barbie for you.
Yes, thank you.
I think Biden might improve by injecting a little bit of bleach, perhaps. I'm not sure.
Yeah. Maybe he injects a little bleach and he's young again. Maybe the fake lie, the lie was right all along.
Injecting bleach was actually.
I should say, don't inject bleach for anybody listening. I don't want to.
Not medical advice.
Yeah.
Don't try that at home.
All right. Well, I can't wait to come to Australia and go to every Outback Steakhouse you guys have. I know that's y'all's favorite restaurant over there.
Most of them are in the cities. Okay, but yeah.
Do you guys actually have those over there?
Well, I mean, that's generally everybody's back porch.
Right. I mean, our representation of you guys is Outback Steakhouse, shrimp on the Barbie, and much. Foster's beer. Australian for beer, is what they say.
That's so funny because Foster's is like the Australian beer known over there. But I actually, just for fun, I asked at a bottle shop the other day, have you got any Fosters? And the chick looked at me. She just she'd never heard of Fosters.
Of course
I think it was
not.
discontinued years ago. She had to Google it.
That's so funny. Yeah. All right, Stella. Is there anywhere you want to tell people to check you out?
Oh, well, I've just started a weather show. It's called Weather or Not, with a gentleman who is ex-Navy, and he's a meteorological forensic dude. That's sort of a genre we've coined anyway. It's just about sort of looking at major weather events and sort of backcasting, sort of checking them out. taking them
Which the
to
weather's
bits
a little
because
weird, you know?
yeah, we want to know like if is there some funny stuff going on with this thing or not. But so he is actually able to put a whole bunch of information together, and a lot of it depends on it's hours and hours of
So
work.
someone who knows what they're talking about.
Exactly. So
Yeah.
yep, we're just doing that. It's just sort of started off. So Stella Q YouTube channel so far. That's all we've got. We're only on episode 2.
Awesome.
Third one's in
Yeah.
the making. Yeah. Thanks for having me, Brad. It's good to see you again.
Yeah. Thanks for coming on the show, and check out Stella. And thank you guys for watching. It was a good time, and we will talk to you guys next time. Have a fantastic rest of your evening.